The Pentagon has ordered a full stand down of the entire military in the next 60 days because they're trying to figure out how to purge white nationalism and extremism. On the surface, I think it sounds like a good idea, right? It sounds like a good idea. If there are people who are, white supremacists, white nationalists, or extremists, we don't want them in the military. I mean, there are stories about gangs. I'm not going to name some of them, but they infiltrate the military and their allegiance is not to the United States. So we need to make sure that the people who are, in our armed forces, well, they're here to serve the people of this country. The problem is this is stemming from what we saw in Washington, D.C., where there were National Guardsmen who had like the Gadsden flag on their Facebook page and got removed. And some people who were members of the NRA and got removed. And now they're claiming that literally everybody in the Capitol is, on the 6th was some kind of extremist, when many of these people were befuddled or bewildered walking into open doors opened for them by police. Certainly what happened at the Capitol was really, really bad. It was horrifying. And the people who stormed into the building should be prosecuted and, held accountable. But there are a lot of people who are just down there. And this is part of the purge. We've heard of people who are simply hearing Trump speak, who have been investigated, who have been fired from their jobs. And now we're hearing the military is doing a legit full stand down. This is not some simple, I'll put it this way. I hope. The optimistic side of me says maybe they just really want to crack down on this extremism, which would be good. But the realistic, part of me says it sounds more like they're going to be doing a kind of loyalty testing where Gadsden flags and the Declaration of Independence and, the original American flag, these things are signs that you're an extremist. The left refers to people who have the Gadsden flag, a sign of the American independence and revolution, as a symbol of white supremacy. So who do you think they will be targeting with someone like this? This is where things start to get a bit freaky. So we'll be talking a lot about this. We've got some news about Joe Biden and Marjorie Taylor Greene. The Democrats have just removed her from all of her committees. It's just another sign. They said they wanted truth and reconciliation commissions. They want a reality czar, and now we're heading in that direction. Now we have an op-ed claiming, I think Tom Brady said that he shouldn't get away with supporting Trump. It is starting to happen. Read your history books. We'll dive right into this. We're joined by the president of the New York Young Republicans, GavinWax.
Thank you for having me, man.
Yeah, you want to just introduce yourself a little bit?
GavinWax, president of the New York Young Republicans, recently reoccupied Wall Street, so it was a little cold, but we had our message.
Gave up real quick.
Yeah, we were kind of we were lame in that regard, but it's still.
What does your club do? What is it, New York?
We're basically a support network for people who are to the right of Ruth Bader Ginsburg in the 5 boroughs. So we do counseling. We give people food, shelter, whatever they may need to survive in liberal land.
So before we even started the show, you were mentioning you had friends in the military.
Yeah.
We're mentioning. So this is good.
National Guard. Yeah, they were talking about this earlier.
We'll get into all this. Of course, we're joined by the parking lot dwelling Luke Rudkowski.
The fact that you're still in New York City is absolutely crazy. I don't know what the hell you're doing there. I left. I'm very happy that I left. Welcome back, beautiful and amazing human beings. My name is Luke Rudkowski of WeAreChange.org. I'm an independent journalist, and if you want to find out more information about me, sign up on my email list on WeAreChange.org in the top right-hand corner. Thanks for having me.
Look at your shirt, disparaging people who play football.
Yeah, technically. I guess you could say that. It's the evolution
One
of man.
step to being a sheep.
I should have put someone taking a selfie. I think
That'd
that was
be
more
better.
accurate. But I made this shirt like 10 years ago, and I just brought it back on, of course, our T-shirt store.
Luke used to go to bars during the Super Bowl and then quiz people on 2 really easy pop culture questions and then a very serious how many people did Barack Obama murder?
Oh my god!
It was a drinking game, and during the Super Bowl, I was like, if you get these 3 questions right, I pay off your bar bill.
Oh snap!
If you get one of them wrong, I have to take a shot. And I got hammered.
Oh no!
I got obliterated.
But
I
you
asked
tricked
questions
people.
yeah. I was like, who's the quarterback? Who's the coach? Whatever football question.
And the third
question was like, what happened in Fukushima? Or how many American citizens did Barack Obama drone bomb and assassinate?
I love it.
How many wars did Barack Obama get involved in? What's the U.S. national debt? No one knew. And I was puking in one video.
No.
Never
plastered.
once. Not one guy ever got it.
I think
a
there was
couple
one.
of them.
Yeah,
a couple of them got it. They were like, I forgot the exact kind of question, but one guy was just on it and surprised the crap out of me. And we kept going after questions, and I bought him a whole bunch of drinks, and we had a whole bunch of fun.
And then afterwards, he's like, Ron Paul?
But yeah. But I remember having such a crazy time, partying, puking, getting kicked out of so many bars. Because again, people are like, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you filming here?" I'm like, "Don't worry, it's fine. I'm with the official people here." They're like, "What official people?" I'm like, "Just some official people." Like,
official people.
And
Office
I had so
people.
much fun. Sadly, we can't do that now because of COVID.
Yeah.
I would have done that because the Super Bowl's coming up.
Yeah. We also got Ian. He's chilling.
What up, guys? Thanks for having me, Tim. Just want to give a shout out to this kombucha. I
Which
just
he made.
brewed kombucha over the last month,
So cool.
and this is day one. This is a pear clove ginger.
Ian
It's
juice.
turned out
Ian
really,
juice.
really good.
Ian's drinking a homemade potion of some sort.
We drink it throughout the show.
I just don't like kombucha. But
I
everyone
like it.
apparently liked it, I
I
guess.
don't.
So,
No.
Yeah, so far so good.
yeah.
Give these a flavor.
Good
Well, we also
reviews?
got Sour Patch Lids pressing all the buttons.
Yes, I'm in the corner pushing buttons. That is my job, and I do it as well as I can.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, before we read this shocking news, and then we've also got some other segments too. We'll talk about UFOs. I want to just have a little bit more fun stuff. We have another really, really crazy story where this dude on a security camera murders his neighbors with a handgun and then an AR of some sort. There's a lot to talk about with this story because it's shocking. It's in full view of the camera. You can hear people screaming, and there's a lot. I'm not going to play the video. We'll show you some of the story, but we're going to get into that stuff as well. But before we do, make sure you go to timcast.com, become a member, because we have exclusive episodes and segments available only to those who are members. You guys who sign up are our shield and our safety net. Is very likely in the future, as the purge continues, we will get wrapped up in it. We have one story coming from The Blaze about, it's from The Blaze, a conservative outlet, about progressives getting purged from YouTube. A lot of progressives are now getting knocked out. So, look, we may be a little milquetoasted in the middle here, but I think it's only a matter of time. That's why we're setting up timcast.com. We're going to be expanding, and we need you to become members because that is the shield. If we get purged, we'll at least be able to still put up episodes on the website and still provide you with hours of amazing exclusive content because we got full episodes. We got one from the 2nd. It's a whole hour-long discussion about religion, life after death, and exorcisms and stuff like that. So you can check that out. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the notification bell, and let's jump to that first story. This is from Reuters. Pentagon, stumped by extremism in the ranks, orders stand down in next 60 days. They say the U.S. military on Wednesday acknowledged it was unsure about how to address white nationalism and other extremism in its ranks, and announced plans for military-wide stand-downs, pausing regular activity at some point in the next 60 days to tackle the issue. The decision to hold a stand-down was made by Lloyd Austin, who made history by becoming the military's first black defense secretary after a long career rising in the ranks of the Army. In his confirmation hearing, Austin underscored the need to rid of the military of racists and extremists. Pentagon spokesman John Kirby said Austin ordered the stand down after a meeting with the U.S. military branch leaders who are under pressure to show progress in combating extremism after current and former military service members were found to have participated in the siege of the U.S. Capitol on January 6. The Pentagon has yet to define how it will deal with extremism or offer data estimating how many service members hold white nationalist ideology. It has also not disclosed how many troops have been disciplined for extremism. Quote, "We don't know how we're going to be able to get after this in a meaningful, productive, tangible way. And that is why we had this meeting today. And that is why he certainly ordered this stand down," Kirby told reporters. It was unclear whether the announcement was meant to foreshadow any near-term concrete actions by Joe Biden's Pentagon or whether the stand down was more of a symbolic move meant to demonstrate Austin's acknowledgement of the problem and continued resolve. The first thing I'll say on this segment, if they really know that there's white nationalism in the military, they got to get rid of it. They got to do everything they can to find these people, and these people, in my opinion, should not be serving. Look, there's a line between being an adherent to an extremist ideology and having opinions that won't impact your job. I think people are allowed to have those opinions, so I'm specifically referring to those who are expressing a desire for some kind of ideological outcome and seemingly a willingness to be more loyal to that ideology than this country. However, I don't trust these people. That's what worries me. We already saw in D.C. some dude had a Gadsden flag post on Facebook, so they kicked him out of D.C. They kicked him off the mission. One dude was like posting about the NRA, so that was gone. And we know how the left and establishment Democrats define racism and white nationalism. They say Trump is a white nationalist. They say all of Trump supporters are racists. It's not true. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris literally fundraised for the rioters in the George Floyd riots, and that resulted in 19 deaths. They literally defend extremists. Then they tell you the other people who oppose it are the extremists. We can see how they're treating what happened on January 6th. Certainly a bad moment. But now they're trying to look at AOC. She came out with this huge fabricated story. She claimed, that she thought she was going to die when this cop knocked on her door. Now it turns out not only was she not in the Capitol building, but her story took place at 1 p.m., a full hour and 10 minutes before anyone breached the Capitol building in the first place. The time she told her story, people had only gotten past the first barricade. So they're lying. They are the extremists. And what really worries me is, like I said, if they want to get rid of real ideological extremists, I'm cool with that. But if what they're really doing is loyalty testing and purging the military of anybody who might support the idea of American independence and liberty, we got ourselves a very, very serious problem because it extends well beyond the military. But what we're seeing in D.C., for instance, permanent barricades, barbed wire. They're saying it's going to be permanent, a green zone in D.C., 5,000 troops. It's an occupation. And now they're getting rid of those disloyal. It sounds like we are headed towards some truly horrific nightmare. We're living in it, man. This is a dystopian novel.
Yep, and this is also happening on the backdrop of the FBI expanding their activities, finally being mobilized and activated like we've never seen before, on top of elements in the mainstream media, specifically NPR, calling for CIA counterinsurgency operations and tactics inside of the United States. Now, when you look at the history of the CIA counterintelligence insurgency operations, what are they going to do? Are they going to start arming terrorists and bombing weddings in the United States?
Antifa.
I mean, are you kidding me? And again, we have to understand here, this is happening at a time where, a lot is going on. So there's a lot of room for concern.
It's rapid.
Yeah.
It's rapid, man.
Looks like all the opening moves, if you just, suffered a coup d'etat, this is exactly out of the handbook. It's like, get loyalty tests, purge the military, start investigating your own people. That's not what a free society does. This is what a very unfree, unhealthy society does. And, everything they were accusing Trump of doing, I mean, it's happening right before our very eyes. It's self-projecting. They're gaslighting to mask it. It's pretty scary.
Really
so scary.
you were mentioning you knew people in the National Guard who were talking about this.
Yeah, I mean, I got messages today about it before I think it was really started to trend. It became a topic, and I read it. I was like, this is insane. I mean, they're going to use this as a carte blanche to get rid of essentially anyone who is just slightly to the right of maybe Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Anyone who doesn't adhere to everything in the establishment's orthodoxy is done, and they make up. I mean, the NRA members, a member of a TPUSA organization. I mean, you could be part of very mainstream conservative organizations, and they will use that as a way to label you as a white supremacist.
Look what they did to the RNC, right? So we had this digital RNC. It wasn't a big crowd. You had a couple black politicians and speakers, and the Democrats on the left have said they were tokenizing them. And I'm like, you complain that the Republicans are too white, and then when they bring up people of color, you complain that they're using people of color. It's like there's literally nothing you can do.
You can't win.
Yeah, it's just they've set it up in such a way that they are always right. They've covered all of the bases. It is very obviously an extremist authoritarian ideology. Some of these progressive YouTubers were defending Antifa burning down small businesses, and then defended 25,000 fully armed, with the authority to kill National Guardsmen in Washington, D.C. So how do you defend the destruction of the working class, the businesses, and then the power of the state, unless you are an authoritarian wingnut?
It's all about power. They don't care. And then every time Republicans do this all the time, they always try to bring up the hypocrisy and the double standards. They don't care. They're shameless. They just say the biggest lie over and over again until it becomes truth. And we've seen a lot of people buy into it, the sheeple, whatever you want to call them. And, they're just regurgitating what they're told because it becomes, in an Orwellian sense, the only truth.
These Stalin kind of loyalty tests are going to be interesting because I know a few people in the military, and after being in the military, a lot of them are disenfranchised with the military, with the government, whether it's the government lying to them to get to them in. There was a recent video my friend was showing me. It was on TikTok, and it was a random National Guards member going up to troops being like, hey, why'd you enlist? Why'd you sign up? And all of them, I can't even say what they said, family-friendly show here, but the gist was, I'm stupid. I don't know what I'm doing. I just wanted to check. Yep. And a lot of them don't even get to check because they get lied to by the recruiters to get in there. And that's not even talking about the larger issues of the history of Agent Orange, depleted uranium, and the U.S. government using its troops literally like pawns for psychological chemical weapons testing and all these other kind of weird experiments that no one even wants to talk about. So there's a big segment of the U.S. military that is disenfranchised, and the more that they're in the system, the more anti-government they become. So these loyalty tests are going to be very very interesting, especially with something like a Joe Biden presidency, when we're seeing the representation and the response to him, especially online. Now, of course, this isn't a perfect representation, but if you look at the White House YouTube channel, the like to dislike ratio is crazy.
They haven't shut that down yet?
Well, so here,
Yeah.
this is an important comment because, you know, the first reaction from any leftists is just because right-wingers brigade, you know, send all of their followers to dislike something doesn't prove its general sentiment. And my response to that, so basically it's like this. Why is it that the White House videos are all thumbs down? Well, what they say is, you know, 4chan or Reddit or Patreon or whatever will tell everyone, hey, go here and give it a thumbs down. Or they'll post the video and then everyone will go and give it a thumbs down. If that's the case, if that's what they believe, what they're saying is the left has no organizational power to, you know, online. But I think what the reality is, those who seek out information, who are, you know, who learn through critical thought, are more likely to oppose the orthodoxy. Left and right doesn't mean anything. Right now, what they're saying is, like, you know, when they say Tim Pool is right wing, I actually find it kind of hilarious that I can have so many left wing policy opinions and agree, you know, very much more often with someone on the left on economic or social issues, and then they call that right wing. Why? The difference is critical thinking and challenging the establishment. What left and right is becoming is pro-establishment versus anti-establishment, and that's why they go after Jimmy Dore. That's why they banned a bunch of progressives. Why YouTube kicked out Graham Elwood. These are progressives who challenge the establishment. So their best, you know, vector of attack is you're the other, you're evil, right wing is bad. That's what we're gonna, you know. That's what we've been seeing.
The tribalism, you've talked about this.
Right.
Everyone in their tribes, and it just creates this dichotomy and this dynamic that it's like you're fighting the other and it dehumanizes them. But I think what's interesting about what's going on with these loyalty tests is that the military has traditionally been one of the last institutions that, I'm not saying it was, you know, completely right-wing, but it was certainly center-right. And it's the one institution that they really haven't had a full amount of control over. And if you really want to completely take over society, yes, you can have the media, yes, you could have big tech, yes, you could have academia, all these other major institutions. But at the end of the day, to really enforce a lot of their dystopian agenda, it needs to have someone with a gun and the end of the gun being pointed at you, essentially.
They don't have police.
And they don't have police and they don't have the military. Now they finally have their political power. They have their media power. This is one of the last steps to full consolidation. It's very scary.
And they're trying to get the military to wear high heels, as pointed out when
Yeah.
Alex Jones came on.
Yeah.
And we didn't believe him.
Yeah.
We were
yeah.
like, get out of here,
Yeah.
you crazy guy.
And as this is happening, we have to understand on the backdrop, we got information from the BBC today that came out in an article highlighting how the Chinese government is trying to promote education to make men more masculine in order to prevent the feminization of young boys. We also have to understand this is on the backdrop of many prominent Chinese government-linked organizations and institutions financing a lot of top colleges in the United States that make masculinity look bad.
Yep.
So this could be a larger play here. This is obviously speculation, but if you kind of connect the dots here, I think there's an argument to make.
Well, China knows what's happening in the U.S. They know the demoralization. They know the crumbling of society. It's happening, and they're trying to do everything they can to make sure their own society is actually well off. So they're acting in their own nation's best interests. Our elites are not. That's the difference between their elites and our elites. I mean, they're repugnant for sure, but at least they have their nation's self-interest to some degree.
Mike Pompeo said that we've been infiltrated by China at every single level, every state, every institution. Is it possible that this is a cultural attack against the U.S. exploiting our weaknesses? Free speech is a great thing, but it creates an attack vector. The right of crazy people to say crazy things and win once they have economic power.
What better way to take over a country than have it fight itself?
Right.
You know, if you were China, if you were another competing country on the world stage and you wanted to take it over, you know there's a whole bunch of armed individuals. They have a whole bunch of guns. There's a whole bunch of sovereign individuals there that are, you know, are anti-government, don't like authority, will never like us. We got to get rid of them. What better way than to do everything that's being done now? Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was cutting you off, but thank you. No, it's the KGB guy, Yuri Bezmenov. He said demoralize them. I mean, you're not going to beat them in open combat. You're not going to beat them through an invasion. You demoralize society. You make society hate itself. You make society divided. And then it crumbles beneath it. I mean, it's better than economics.
And it's the only way, because geographically, America is in a very unique position. You look at China, it's at a very geopolitically weak position.
India,
this is
everything,
why they're fighting off, you know, to make sure that they have the island of Taiwan. This is why they're building the islands in the South Chinese Sea. This is why they're fighting the Indians in that territory, because where they are on the world stage is very bad for any kind of fight that would happen.
Right.
The United States is in an amazing place, very safe, and And the only way to really take it down is to, of course, make it fight itself.
It's not even just where the U.S. is. It's also the territory of the U.S. I mean, think about if they tried to come from the western coast. We got the Rockies.
Right.
Not something easy they could get equipment over. So there's no real ground invasion. That's never going to happen. Plus, we're armed to the teeth.
Right.
How many guns are in this country? What do we have? 4.3 million background checks in January.
A good thing. Beautiful.
That is a lot of guns. We don't know. All those background checks don't always result in a gun, but a lot of people in this country have guns. So there's that meme quote, I don't know if it's real, about a gun behind every blade of grass. So it's got to be psychological warfare.
Yeah, they'll spend like decades with this demoralization, according to Yuri Bezmenov. He said they'll do 2-3 decades of just demoralization.
He said that we were done. He said, I think, in, what was it, the 80s, 90s? He was like, you guys are already there. I mean,
because the universities.
The universities.
G. Edward Griffin interviewed him, and he's still, writing books. He's the guy who wrote The Creature from Jekyll Island. He would be a great guest to have on. But according to Brookings, there's more guns than people in the United States.
Beautiful.
Right now.
Well, of course.
So
well, that's what they're scared
we're
of.
talking about more than like 400 million.
Listen to this. We were joking about, not really joking, we were talking and lamenting about Seth Rogen being a really mean person, right? So it's kind of silly, and a lot of people probably think it's meaningless, but I think this is one of the most important aspects of how we will be crushed by China. Believe it or not, I'm going to say, in the upcoming conflict, the ongoing conflict with China, the U.S. will be defeated, and a good example of why is Seth Rogen being a bad person. Seth Rogen responded to a guy from Quillette named Jonathan Kay just saying, "You are stupid." It was a meaningless post. There was no reason to say it. It was just an awful thing to be. And what this shows is people in this country, from the smallest angry Twitterer to the wealthiest, most famous celebrity, they've become completely demoralized. There's literally no reason for this. I saw something that really broke my heart earlier. I don't know if you guys saw the story. Carrie Elwes insulted Ted Cruz, saying everyone from the cast and crew, despises you or whatever, and you're a humongous ROUS or something like that. And then Ted Cruz responded with, "Does this mean you want your picture back?" And it was a picture of Carrie Elwes as the Dread Pirate Roberts in Princess Bride, and it was signed to Ted Cruz by Carrie Elwes. That means, at some point, Carrie met with Ted Cruz and probably shook his hand and said, "Here's a picture of me," or signed it to him and signed it for him. That's a sign of respect, because they knew Ted Cruz loves The Princess Bride, a very famous movie from the 80s. And now we're at a point where the demoralization is so within us that Carrie Elwes, who once gave this gift to Ted Cruz, is smack-talking him on Twitter for no reason. Why is everyone so awful? You know what? It could just be that we are victims of our own success, and we have created these big social platforms that have manipulated us. And it's entirely possible that, like Yuri Bezmenov said, this is the weakness of the United States, and we have been demoralized, and this is regardless of whether China wants it to happen. I think when you talk about Mike Pompeo saying we've been infiltrated at every level, then it stands to reason that this is playing exactly into their hands.
It's not that everyone's awful. It's like if we're all chilling in a room and one person comes in and starts screaming, it ruins the room for everyone.
It's like a virus.
And that's similar to Twitter.
Yeah.
Get these loud idiots that are.
It's a vocal minority, but I think it's not just so outside influence.
But it's not the minority. It's every single person.
Not me.
Fair.
No, I know. It's what I would say is it's most people who are active on Twitter. Most people, like conservatives, do it all the time. Like Luke was making fun of AOC all day. Why?
The memes were great.
It was a lot of memes. It was a lot of videos, and I thought they were hilarious. And I think during
you know
this
what?
situation, I think it's important to laugh. You need to laugh.
But the problem is it's always at the expense of other people. I called AOC a liar who's manipulating us, and she fabricated her story, and I proved it on the timeline. But Crowder called her a horse face.
Yeah, that's a little far.
Right. So the problem is criticism is okay when people are doing things that are bad. And AOC is one of the biggest contributors to demoralization in this country. But I don't like we have to get away from being vicious and nasty, because that's what's weakening us. Look, Luke pointed out this story from the BBC. China promotes education drive to make boys more manly. It is the opposite of what we are doing here in this country. Like you mentioned, we need to teach people like stoicism, pragmatism, to be strong and resilient and calm and controlled in their emotions.
We have to relearn the classics. We have to relearn everything that they knew in ancient times. I mean, I feel like modernity has shown us that it's given this arrogance that we're at the best point in our development as a society, as humans, when in reality we've regressed in many areas. Yes, our technology's better. Yes, some economic things are better. But in a lot of ways, at an individual level, I mean, in terms of people being more independent, people being more free thinking, we've regressed so far.
Well, even just beyond that, specifically specifically talking about what's happening in men, in China, they're dealing with a huge population crisis that is coming to a head. That's going to lead to a lot of problems inside of China. And when you look at it, statistically, testosterone and sperm levels are down dramatically, and they're going down throughout the last few years in a way that's absolutely shocking and should scare the crap out of everyone, particularly in the West, where, of course, we are seeing essentially just what people are calling a chemical warfare against men.
Well, if you want to control a society, you don't want a society full of angry men who are well-read, who know their history, who know what's going on. You want a society full of, soy boys, essentially, who don't know their history, who are just atomized.
They can't stand up for themselves.
They can't stand up for themselves. They don't know their past. They don't know their future. They're just kind of living in the moment in this consumerist society. Those are the easiest people to control.
Don't have a family.
No family, no roots, nothing. They're just driftless in mind and body. And
those are perfect individuals for big multinational corporations to profit off of, because they're always going to have a customer.
Exactly.
When someone would have a family, when someone would have values and important things to work towards and do,
transcendence.
They're not going to be looking for happiness inside of a Happy Meal or inside of the next product that they buy.
Right.
Their happiness, they're going to feel content, which is going to make them a worse off consumer. So on many levels, this works for the benefit of course, the billionaire class, geopolitically for other countries, and of course not to the benefit of you, me, or anyone else listening.
Right.
Do you guys remember the Try Guys?
Oh my God, where they had the below like 2 standard deviations of T levels?
So I tried finding. So for those that aren't familiar, and now that we've talked about China and masculinity, China wants to make their men more masculine, and in the U.S., like Luke mentioned, testosterone levels are down, sperm counts are down, reproduction is going down, and there's this group of guys that were on BuzzFeed. I don't think they're there anymore. But they were called the Try Guys. So they decided to do a segment where they tested their testosterone levels, and their testosterone levels were that of senior citizens.
That or like prepubescent boys or something.
Or girls, I think.
Or girls, yeah.
Yeah, no, of women.
It was
yeah,
bad.
It was really bad. So I actually have this article. I couldn't find a good article talking about the results because the original video they did just said, "Hey, look, we got our testosterone tested. How fun." But then a lot of people realized, whoa, these guys have dangerously low levels of testosterone. So I found a website called the 4-Second Hard-On, and they say BuzzFeed's Try Guys have dangerously low testosterone. This is from December of 2017. They say the BuzzFeed Try Guys are a stereotypical group of beta male millennials that try various weird things and record their feminine reactions on YouTube. I don't think it's the best article I could find, so forgive the snark. If you have the misfortune to watch any of their content, you probably notice something's a little off. You'd be correct. In one of their antics, they tried to find out who was the most attractive man. One of the things they did was have blood work done to measure their testosterone levels. The Daily Wire reports. Actually, you know what? Can I just pull up the Daily Wire? Because they'd be a little bit less bombastic. So, no, that's not even there anymore. All right. So they say, quote, the normal T-score for an adult male ranges from 270 to 1070 NG/DL. Would you know what that means, Leah?
No.
NG/DL?
Sorry.
With men aged from 25 to 34 averaging at 617 NG/DL.
So that's nanograms per deciliter.
Oh,
Whatever
okay.
that means, just a measurement.
All right. Not one BuzzFeed beta male met the 617 average. Rather, all of the men tested below the level of a typical 85-year-old male. Moreover, 3 of the 4 men tested below the average range, and the male with the highest testosterone level, Eugene, still had a relatively low T-score with 363 NG/DL. Why is it? Like, I don't.
Food.
Microplastics.
No exercise, maybe microplastics. I was reading about how we have this bottled water, right? No offense to this bottled water company, but there's, what is it called, like biphenyls?
Microplastics that mimic estrogen.
Yeah, bisphenol.
Inside of them, especially if the bottle is, exposed to heat and cold and expansion. But it's also alcohol. It's also mint. It's also, breads. Yeah,
Mint?
many people don't even know this.
Really?
Mint lowers your testosterone. I've looked into this. Trust me, I got my testosterone
Interesting.
tested a whole bunch of times.
Were you good?
Yes. I was very happy with my levels. I was like, all right, I did
think
it.
the Slavic level starts higher as
Yeah,
like a
I think
baseline.
so. I wasn't born in the United States, and I think that also helps a
that's
lot
interesting.
too. I was exposed to a whole different kind of way of life during.
Your radiation levels are way higher, though.
Yes, because of Chernobyl, which I was actually born very close to, and afterwards, and I was still in my mom's belly, so that could understand my fraudulent slips sometimes. But
Fraudulent?
Yes.
you know what I said.
Freudian.
I
You
know.
almost got
I'm
it this
messing
time,
with
though.
you. I'm messing with you.
Ironic.
3D chess here, okay? All right. What you guys caught me off guard, but also most importantly, so yes, mint, alcohol. Some people even point to bread. A lot of fake food, lack of exercise, lack of sleep, a lot of stress, microplastics, and those are only some of the theories out there of what's leading to this. There's other beliefs that there's even more, but again, testosterone, sperm levels, reproduction levels, absolutely low, very dangerous. No one wants to talk about it. They should be talking about it because testosterone is not only key to men's physical health, not only to your bones, not only towards your muscles, not only to your towards your physical structure, but also your mental health. So if you're lacking in testosterone, this could explain why so many people are out of it, loopy and crazy, and we're having a mental health crisis because they don't have the proper amount of hormones
And
within
easy
their
to
system.
manipulate.
So
and easy to manipulate.
I want to stress, I mean no disrespect to the Try Guys. I'm just, I mean that sincerely. I'm pointing out this is a serious issue. So in one of the images they show, we can see that the lowest guy, Ned, had a T-score of 212. And for someone who's 85 to 100, it should be 376. There is seriously something wrong. I mean,
This is a bigger public health crisis than coronavirus, but no one's talking about it.
But
Maybe
if your T levels are below that of an 85-year-old man, shouldn't you go for like a screening of some sort to figure out what's wrong? Could that be something more serious than that?
Has anyone ever? I mean, if you go into like a regular checkup, this is not a normal procedure. It should be like when they check everything
I have
else.
to make sure, like, I get it,
Right.
and I have to fight them sometimes. I'm like, because I get a blood test every 6 months just to check out my levels,
Right.
just to see how I'm doing on my, minerals and nutrients and all this other vitamin stuff, making sure my body's running, well. And they're like, oh, well, you don't need it. You're fine. You're in your third. I'm like, no. Make sure you put it on there because they just refuse to do it many times.
So let me show you this. I just did this quick Google search. It's from 2007. Generational decline in testosterone levels observed. Trend does not seem to be attributable to health and lifestyle changes. They say during the past 2 decades, testosterone levels in American men have rapidly declined. This information comes from a long-term prospective study that evaluated changes in serum testosterone on a population-wide basis. The study was published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology and Metabolism. They say the interesting thing we discovered was that on average, when we measured the testosterone in the blood of a 60-year-old in 1989, it was higher than that in a different 60-year-old measured in 1995, said Thomas Travison, PhD, of the New England Research Institute's Watertown, Massachusetts. We observed the same phenomenon over a wide range of ages. They say although testosterone loss is common as men age, it is often associated with diabetes, abdominal obesity, sexual dysfunction, depression, and other adverse conditions. The Massachusetts male aging study was composed of randomly selected men ages 45 to 79 living in the Boston area. I'm not going to go through all of the, full details on how the study was done. Just that for the past couple of decades now, or I should say decade and a half-ish, we've been seeing that there's some kind of decline in testosterone among men, not related to lifestyle or what do they say, health and lifestyle.
Well, for diet, personally, I just reminded myself because I remember doing a lot of research about this a few years ago, but it's also a lot of processed food, flax seeds, vegetable oils, along with what I mentioned before, mint, alcohol, that do have a very negative effect on you.
And then remember
Yes,
they
mint.
said,
Weird.
They said you weren't supposed to eat eggs for a while. Eggs was bad, red meat, and all
they're
those things.
good.
They
Yes.
moved them back up the pyramid or the food pyramid because they found
Healthy
out
fats.
Healthy fats. But also, you guys remember they used to talk about ancient Rome with the lead and the aqueducts and stuff, and that had an impact on people's health. And I think, if I remember correctly, the lead in there impacted testosterone of ancient Rome. I mean, there may be something going on now that we don't know about, the plastics, whatever. Maybe in 1,000 years we'll know.
High fructose corn syrup, maybe.
Yeah.
It really
Maybe.
hit the mainstream food supply in 1989. It's banned in Europe. Is that true?
The interesting
But Europe's
thing,
just as bad. So.
the interesting thing about the study, though, is they mention 1989 to 1995. It's not like these are different generations.
Right.
It's not like there was a genetics being passed down or whatever.
89 to 95.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah,
6
that's
years.
when high fructose corn syrup hit the market.
Well, so
Like
you have a
enforced.
60-year-old in 1989, and that means you have the 60-year-old at the time was 54. So maybe there's something about you go back to the 50s, and we've been introducing more and more of something that's caused some kind of
also
issue with men.
the sugar industry put out a bunch of PR and bribed a bunch of doctors to say that fats were really bad for you. And if you walk around the supermarket, you see everything non-fat, low-fat, and
those are the worst for you.
And there's been a lot of misinformation surrounding fat, good fat, bad fat, that of course was just totally wiped out with this larger PR campaign that was launched by the sugar industry. Because if you look at foods now, everything has a ton of crazy processed sugar in there, but very few things actually have natural fat. And natural fat is also very key, important, not only for your physical health, but also your mental health.
This could be it. I mean, it could be a bunch of guys who are not getting any fat in their diet. Maybe they're vegan. So they're, no disrespect to vegans, but probably getting a lot more fiber, a lot more sugar, and a lot less protein and fat.
I mean, have you ever seen a healthy vegan? I mean, they generally don't look healthy. I mean, that's an anecdote, but I mean, I've never seen them look great.
Adam and Nish are pretty healthy, but they supplement hard. Adam and Nish, they live here in the house.
Oh, okay.
And they know all of the secrets.
But that's the thing. You have to have, you have to go the extra mile.
Big time, too. Vitamin B deficiency is huge. I would imagine.
Iron deficiency,
fat.
Because I'm not a nutritionist or anything, but my understanding is that there's like heme iron and non-heme iron. You Google fact check me on this one. But I was reading that when you get iron from, say, a steak, your body absorbs it right away. But from vegetables, it doesn't unless you have vitamin C. So you eat meat, you're getting your iron, you're getting your vitamin B. You're not getting that if you're on a vegan diet.
Yeah, so many people are deficient in micronutrients and vitamins, and a lot of the food, especially, I believe there was a study done comparing the actual nutritional levels of food and vegetables and fruits just a couple years ago to now, and that's also declining, and that could be a response because of factory farming. Leah, you want to say something?
Yeah, I do. Actually, I have a lot I want to say about this stuff because I love this kind of stuff. So Ian was talking about how he thinks that the introduction of stuff like high fructose corn syrup might be causing part of the problem. I think that I would probably accredit the whole larger problem to the problem of obesity, which I would then attribute to the problem with our microbiome, which is something that almost nobody ever talks about, but it affects everything we do.
I started
these
taking
guys
probiotics.
are the Try guys are frail.
This is a great probiotic.
They're gaunt.
They have the opposite problem.
I've taken probiotics, prebiotics the last 2-3 months. I have felt so much. It's crazy.
I took it on a whole nother level. I
Yes.
started getting customized probiotics, and I started working and even doing affiliate sales because I was so happy with the results that I found, where you literally have to doo-doo in a cup and send it to a laboratory, and then they sent you, and then they test out your gut. My gut, they tell you things about you that you didn't even know based off your
gut is a lot. Yeah.
I'm wondering if maybe there's something related to the higher crop yield that we've seen from crops due to, you have people like Norman Borlaug, who's this famous scientist who figured out how to get more wheat out of a typical, yield or whatever to save people from starvation. He's a brilliant guy. People consider he's a great hero and scientist. But there's a concern that there's less and less nutrients in the crops we're growing as we grow more and more and more and make it more dense.
That as the carbon dioxide, I would really need to fact check this, but as the carbon dioxide levels have increased on planet Earth, the plants have been getting bigger, but they haven't been getting more nutritious. It's almost like they're getting more obese.
No, they're getting more carbon in them, which is just the basic building blocks of plant matter. But there's still things like, I don't know, iron or selenium or certain vitamins that need to be produced.
But that's not growing at the same rate as just the mass of these plants.
Let me tell you another story. Look, I'm not going to pretend to be a bioengineer or farmer or any kind of agriculturalist, but I was in New Zealand and we were driving from Auckland to Wellington, and on the way there we drove through this area where it looked fairly barren, and the New Zealanders I was with told me that at one point when settlers came to New Zealand, they were having their sheep graze in this area, but the sheep all started dropping dead. Their livestock would just die randomly for no reason. They had no idea why. And then eventually they started testing the ground and they found there was no selenium. I think that's what he said. I think it's selenium, not a scientist, guys. But they realized that the animals weren't getting a vital nutrient even though they were eating grass and crops and things they needed. So it's possible that we're growing all this food and we're not putting anything into it. It's just like dry carbs.
And even according to, Peak Prosperity, they were talking about selenium being very important for your body to fight off COVID, and a lot of people being deficient in it. I'm actually on this website, Medical News Today, and they recommend foods that actually increase your testosterone. It's actually a lot of the stuff that I, have been taking myself, and they recommend foods like ginger, leafy greens, fatty foods, fish oil, virgin olive oil, onions, and oysters.
A Mediterranean diet.
As
exactly.
positive positive foods
That's
to,
right,
to
right.
boost your testosterone naturally, because I know a lot of people who either go down to Mexico or even through weird doctors here in the United States decide to do it the artificial way. And that's why there's a lot of people on testosterone replacement therapy. And once you're on it, you're going to have to be on it for the rest of your life. I know a lot of people who are miserable because of it. They're very happy when they initially take it, but it's just like any other hormone. Your body stops naturally producing it. So essentially you have to inject yourself almost
It's like steroids.
every month. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's what a lot of fighters are, accused of doing. That's why they test a lot of fighters, because a lot of fighters inject themselves with anabolic steroids, extra testosterone, to make sure that they're better fighters. There was even legal testosterone replacement that Joe Rogan was talking about some UFC fighters using, and then just bulking up, being buffer, having huge muscles, and being incredible fighters, which also was banned by the UFC and other fighting organizations because of obviously people were abusing it and taking a whole bunch of it themselves. But I know a lot of people that just, they take it artificially. And that's becoming more and more prevalent among older men that I know.
Let me read this segment from the 4-second hard-on. They say, they are not freaks. They are the new normal of the BuzzFeed Try Guys. A very sizable percentage of millennial men suffer from low testosterone levels. The reasons are pretty well known, but hard to combat. Modern lifestyle is sedentary, and the most lucrative jobs in the modern economy require sitting in front of a computer under fluorescent lighting for 10 hours a day. The male body requires routine athletic activity and exposure to sunlight, and most are not getting it. On top of that, processed foods and chemical pollutants crippling men's hormone systems. The near universal use of birth control pill by women results in the water supply being tainted with estrogen. Hell, male fish in polluted rivers are actually becoming female. You mean to tell me they're turning the frickin' fish into women?
That's correct.
What kind of website did you find? 4-second hard-on?
Popular
it.
Science. Hold on. PopularScience.com.
Okay.
Something in the water is feminizing male fish. Are we next?
Yes.
I've heard that the pharmaceuticals in the water is devastating.
Yes.
Well, it's not just pharmaceuticals. We have to understand even cocaine in parts of the
Meth in
United
Florida.
Kingdom were found amongst fish because of people using record numbers of cocaine, and then it being disposed of in your body through your stool, it going through, of course, the natural kind of plants. It never filters through, and of course, it's spreading everywhere. And this is also the same for what's the pill that women take not to get pregnant?
Birth control?
Birth control, yes.
Yeah.
Birth
Like we were
control.
talking
So
about.
that there also is a lot of discussion about the larger effects of birth control going into the water, because there's no way of filtering it out, and of course, this affecting people who drink the tap
I mean,
water.
the pill
You just
itself.
don't drink
for
the tap
women.
water. So I only drink bottled water. For the most part.
Microplastics.
So we're
There's
in
a
well,
reason I got a glass
well
bottle.
water thing.
I got a
Right.
glass
That's
bottle
true.
here for a reason.
That's true.
Yeah.
We're in a well system here with like an insanely good water treatment system. And so I was wondering about, contaminants in water and how it's affecting people. So obviously there's fluoride, which I remember this like decades ago. They would say, people like Alex Jones and Luke Rudkowski's of the world
it's a chemical waste byproduct.
saying don't ingest fluoride, but it's in your toothpaste, so people ingest it no matter what. It's in your water, so no matter what you do, you ingest it. But there were a lot of people saying it's a conspiracy theory, it's fine. Then I remember I posted something on MySpace, like this is back in the day, where I read a study came out. So this is back in the Aughties or whatever you want to call it, about how fluoride does cause problems and you shouldn't ingest it. Even if like the idea is it helps your teeth, you don't need to drink it. But outside of the fluoride thing, that's a long-standing complaint people have. Some jurisdictions are voting to remove fluoride from their water. You have you have the other contaminants of birth control pills. So this is something we've read a lot about, and now we have this study, Popular Science, pointing out. Let me read a little bit of this. They say, it's one thing to worry about pollutants in our fresh water supply. It's another to find out that all across the country, male fish swimming in some of that water are becoming intersex. Their male sex organs producing immature female eggs. Although the condition occurs naturally in some species, it shouldn't happen to black bass. But a new study shows that it is, and in numbers far greater than ever suspected. The phenomenon raises serious concerns about the pollution levels in our rivers and could threaten several species. They say the 9-year study conducted by the U.S. Geological Survey provides the first nationwide count of intersex fish in the U.S. rivers. Overall, 44% of the largemouth and smallmouth bass dissected turned out to be intersex. But at some sites, 91% of the male largemouth bass were affected. Biologist Joe Ellen Hink's team found intersex males at 34 of 111 sites in 8 out of 9 major river basins, including the Columbia, the Colorado, and the Mississippi. The southeastern U.S. was hit hardest, with intersex bass at every location sampled along the Apalachicola Savannah and PD rivers. Now we need to figure out why. The discovery raises some tough questions. Scientists don't know whether the growing number of feminized fish could hinder reproduction enough to disturb the rest of the ecosystem or even drive bass into extinction. Even scarier, the culprit is still unknown. The prime suspect, our toilets. Previous research indicates that wastewater treatment plants flush endocrine disruptive compounds, EDCs, including pharmaceuticals, pesticides, and hormones into the rivers. Even minuscule amounts of EDCs can trigger powerful hormonal shifts that deform male fish's reproductive organs. During a 7-year study, for instance, scientists added parts per trillion amounts, the levels emitted by treatment plants, of synthetic estrogen used in birth control pills to a closed lake. The resulting sex changes collapsed the entire fish population. Was Alex Jones right about atrazine turning the friggin' frogs gay?
He wasn't wrong. That's one of the few things.
He wasn't right, actually.
No, he wasn't right. He admits
Yeah,
that too.
right. He wasn't right.
It was altering their.
Well, I was
their
specifically
sex
talking about the
organs.
chemicals.
He was right about that.
In the water not being
No,
filtered.
no,
When he was talking about that, he was absolutely right about
He said
that.
it was hyperbole. When he said gay, he was actually what he meant was that their sex organs were changing from male to female.
So yeah, intersex, like we're seeing
Hermaphroditic.
with this popular science article. I think the issue with what he was talking about was that he cited atrazine, which I believe is a pesticide. And I think they later came out and said they don't believe atrazine to have been the main culprit in causing some of these changes in the frog population. But we have this popular science article, and admittedly, it's from 10 years ago. So there may have been developments or changes. But we have only a few years ago, we're seeing human males with testosterone levels that should be alarming. Look, I'm going to say it again. No disrespect to the Try Guys. I'm not trying to be mean. But I would just say if your testosterone level is at 212 and someone who's 85 is at 367, I think you need to go to a doctor for a full screening of some sort. Something might be wrong.
They're victims. I mean, I feel bad for them. I don't think they did this purposely. I mean, it's just the byproduct of society. I mean, I think we're going to wake up one day in the plot of what's that movie, Children of Men.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to have kids anymore. I mean, I think that's where we're heading. I mean, it's like, and no one's going to see it coming because we're so focused on COVID.
Infertility is on the rise in Western countries, and it's terrifying, the stories that we hear about. And also combined with, of course, the mainstream media push telling you don't need children.
Right.
Children are bad.
Cultural and
Why
biological.
have children when you could have a video game? And there was even advertisements, I believe in the United Kingdom, that were saying choose, and it was a condom and a video game and a baby. And it's like, are you kidding me? Like, why is there such a weird push? Why is there such conversations like this happening when in other countries like Poland and Hungary, they're like, hey, we got to deal with this somehow.
What do the Georgia Guidestones say?
There's
Keep
a
the
lot
population of the world at 500 million.
Did you ever see?
So
that?
I'm not. Hold on.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's a cabal secretly stopping people from having kids, but I do think it's fair to say that there are a lot of environmentalists who flat out say having kids is bad for the planet.
Did you see that grasshopper that got a fungus in its brain, and then the fungus started controlling it, and then broke out of its body?
That's the basis of that video game, the
Last of Us.
Cordyceps, The Last of Us.
And it's real. Are we being mind controlled? Like, are these people saying this stuff?
It could be.
Well, come on. Coca-Cola commercials are mind controlled.
Right.
You know what I
That's
mean?
also true.
And the fungus. The fungus is going to take over all of us.
Coca-Cola
Yes,
is not spraying your house with spores
That we
to
know
go to your
of.
brain to make that we know of.
We
to
don't
make
have-
you drink
fair point.
Coca-Cola. But I think it's fair to say that there are activists who think it's wrong to have kids.
Yeah.
And so they will absolutely use their donations and their power to say having kids is bad for the planet. Now, they're not completely wrong, but I think many of them can be completely crazy. There is a point at which, growth can't be infinite.
Right,
if
we
just,
used to have
that's like
7 kids, families. Sorry to interrupt, because people would die off at age 23 or in childbirth.
Well, no, we had
So
we
people
had
would just say birth control's bad. Have as many kids as you can because we need to populate the planet.
The reason
Not anymore.
families had so many kids in this tracks in modern times is due to your ability to get jobs done. So there's actually this really interesting graph showing the development levels of certain countries and the amount of kids people have per family.
Yep.
So in Africa, for instance, they still have very large families because they don't have access to
Cars, machines.
Yeah, right, machines
necessarily.
And so they need people. They need people to do jobs. But as any country or civilization becomes more technologically developed, they begin having less and less kids.
Part of it's developmental and changes in economics, but I also think if you look at like polls and you look at opinion polling, there's a lot of people, younger generations that still say they want, a decent sized family, but they can't have it through economic reasons or lack of being able to find partners, and that comes down to the mass psychology and
socioeconomic issues as well.
socioeconomic issues. But then also, I mean, what we were talking about before with I lost my train of thought. So
Yeah, but very interestingly, there's a lot of internationalists or globalists.
There are elites that want this.
And elites who usually like global warming as well. Individuals like Ted Turner who have a number of children that advocate for the
Bill
one-child
Gates.
policy, that compliment China on their one-child policy that is wreaking havoc on their society. And there's also, hold on. There's also individuals like Prince Philip that literally were talking about dreaming of being reincarnated as a virus so they could create a pandemic so they could rid the world of overpopulation.
Ted Turner didn't he personally saw to the creation of Captain Planet, didn't he?
I have to
I
look
thought
that up. To
Part of the
fact check that.
environmental activists, it's like this neo-Malthusian like fear of the population growth, which has been disproven. The technology has risen. We've been able to get better crop yields to feed more people, as you were talking about earlier. But I do think that there is like a sort of malevolence in some of the elites in society who are scared of growing populations. Yeah. Growing populations are harder to control.
I was right, by the way. Ted Turner created the environmental themed animated series Captain Planet and the Planeteers. Yeah. A show where like the villains are the polluters. I like Captain Planet. I like the idea.
Show.
I watched it as a kid.
I like the message. Yeah. I like protecting the environment.
Of course, but that's not what they're doing.
When
you only say overpopulation is a problem in the Western world, but not in other parts of the world, and you only focus on one specific area, telling them not to have children, you got to start asking yourself what's really kind of going on here. Because again, it's just odd. It doesn't add up. It's nonsensical.
Why would they?
And we don't have to jump to conspiracies, but we have to acknowledge first that it happens, and it does.
Right. We're already below replacement level, so there's no excuse for wanting to lower. We need natalism. We need like what they're doing in Eastern Europe, where I think Hungary, they just came out with a study that showed their policies for natalism in Hungary actually worked, and within like 2 years the birth rates jumped. I don't know if you guys saw that.
Now, what is natalism?
Like promoting birth.
They did that in Poland too, and it's.
I'm not entirely convinced we need to tell people they have to have kids.
Well, make it so they want to, because I feel like people do want to, but they don't have the means to. Which
I think
I
think the idea is to be more neutral. Is if people want to have kids, we should be like okay, and if people don't want to have kids, we say okay.
That's fine. Yeah.
And I do think there was a chart I saw someone post where we're talking about these stocks going up, GameStop. And then someone posted something like, I keep seeing all these posts about stocks, and this is the only one I'm concerned about. And it shows human population over the past 300 years, and it's a straight line. And then around the 1900 goes, boom, straight up from, a couple hundred years ago, 400 million to billions today. So there's a real conundrum, I suppose. And there's a real political argument where there are a lot of people who say overpopulation's a myth. But then you look at what Chris Martenson was saying about insect population depletion. We talked about dead zones in the ocean. We talk about real environmental issues. We have drought problems. There's not enough water in certain areas anymore because the rainfall isn't there. So they're doing desalination, which destroys the ocean floor, wiping out the food for everybody. So there is a point at which we upset the balance. We destroy everybody. Here's the problem. What's the solution? Like advocating for people to not have families.
I'm sorry. The solution is usually brought to us by the same people causing those problems. Individuals like John Kerry that are talking about they need to use a private jet to accept their awards all over the world and fly around everywhere privately because he's going to make everyone else offset their CO2. This kind of benevolent elitism. This kind of thinking that you're better off than other people is the thinking of individuals like Prince Philip or Ted Turner that openly call for eugenics and population control.
Well, very few people want to be evil. They don't want to see themselves as the bad guy, so they will go through the ringer to justify whatever actions they're promoting under the guise of environmentalism, protecting the little guy, whatever it is. It's like this paternalism that they need to do just to mask what really is horrible policy decisions.
So I have this article from Yahoo, and my monitor just fell.
What the heck?
There we go. I got it back. And it says, Kerry defended taking private jet to Iceland for environmental award, the only choice for somebody like me. And Luke's right. This is my problem. I want to save the planet. I like Captain Planet. Guys, can we use our magic rings to summon this superhero dude who takes out the polluters and the corruption? It sounds awesome, doesn't it? But these people who are claiming that they're Captain Planet and the Planeteers are the ones taking the private jets in the first place. So I feel like when they come to me and say, this planet is in serious danger, we need your support to stop flushing your toilet, stop taking showers, turn your lights off, no more air conditioning, and I'm going to be in my mansion over there with 80 rooms, my private jet and helicopter playing video games with the AC set to 30 degrees.
That's Al Gore.
Right.
Al Gore is one of the largest kind of house hypocrites out there.
Yes.
In so many realms of this. So is Bill Gates, who also routinely calls for population control.
Did the Obamas just buy
Yeah, they
beachfront
did.
property?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right on the coast.
Beachfront property, like the oceans are going to rise and wipe
It's
everybody out. But I
self-projection.
invested
Bill
in Miami
Gates is
Beach.
one of the largest farm landowners in the United States, and he's telling everyone that there's too much people in this world.
Self-projecting their own sins onto
Yeah.
the population at large. It's all it is, and they're just trying to mask their own crimes.
What if they're right, but they're also evil?
I don't think
and
they're right.
And the issue is,
Hypothetically.
we are dealing with fishery collapses, ocean dead zones, mass pollution in the oceans, and their mentality is, if we could only make everyone else stop doing it, we can live in luxury forever.
This myth has been going on for decades. I mean, they've always moved the goalposts. Like I mentioned Malthus earlier, every time that they always say we're going to hit a critical mass in terms of population, technology catches up, awareness in society catches up, and it pushes the upper limit. I mean, yes, there may be a point where we plateau, but so far it's always the goalposts keep moving.
You're not going to stop people from behaving. People are going to keep taking craps. They're going to keep throwing things on the ground when they're done with them. That's what we do, and stuff's going to end up in the ocean. So we need to look at people like Boyan Slat, who will recover.
I was
plastic.
just thinking about him.
Yes.
I was looking him up. This is crazy.
These people are going to tell you to stop and to cut back on the amount of humans and to stop. But no, we're going to keep wasting and we're going to keep growing. But people like Boyan and us, we can collect the plastic, convert it back into oil and reuse it, and then take the carbon dioxide out of the air.
But let me point something out real quick. I saw this very important fact from Cassandra Fairbanks, that Walt Disney was obsessed with making, Disneyland or World, I don't know which one, function perfectly. And so they did a study on how many steps a person will take before they litter. And they found it was like 30. So they put a trash can. Every trash can is within at least 29 steps of every other trash can, and there's no litter. That was
there
it.
isn't.
Yeah.
Boylan Slot, I'm so happy you brought him up. He's one of the youngest members to be ever invited to Bilderberg. I remember hounding the airports, right, and seeing him, and all the other reporters like, he's not Bilderberg. I'm like, yes, he is. And I just had a feeling, confronted him. He was there at the Bilderberg conference, one of the youngest people. He's the one that's building these huge rafts in the ocean that collect all the plastic and actually is a big effort in cleaning up the oceans. I actually interviewed him after Bilderberg. He said some really surprising and interesting stuff, but he's doing something. He's creating a technology, as you were saying, solving a lot of these bigger problems instead of just creating them like a lot of these elites.
Right. That's why it's not a problem. It's going to self-correct. I mean, this is, if you could go back through history, there's always been points where at some point human development has started to push back on its own development, and it self-corrects. It returns to equilibrium. So the ingenuity of this guy is part of that.
You can kind of like redirect the flow of the waste river of humanity, of what we are, by like placing trash cans every 30 feet. And so we don't throw it on the ground, we throw it in the trash can. It's still going to end up from that trash can in a landfill or in the ocean.
I have good
so
news.
we need to do things like what Boyan's doing and recollect the plastic.
I don't think so. Maybe you guys, your initial assessment was correct that life adapts. Because I have another story for you. From Eco Watch, scientists find bacteria that eats plastic. They say German researchers have identified a strain of bacterium that not only breaks down toxic plastic, but also uses it as food to fuel the process, according to The Guardian. The scientists discovered the strain of bacteria known as Pseudomonas bacteria at a dump site loaded with plastic waste, where they noticed that it was attacking polyurethane. Polyurethanes are ubiquitous in plastic products because they are pliable and durable. However, when they reach the end of their usefulness and end up in landfills, they decompose slowly and slowly release toxic chemicals into the soil as they degrade. They are also notoriously difficult to recycle. Since it is so difficult to recycle, millions and millions of products containing them, sneakers, diapers, kitchen sponges, etc., end up in landfills. Quote, the bacteria can use these compounds as a sole source of carbon, nitrogen, and energy. Hermann J. Heipiper, a senior scientist at the Helmholtz Center for Environmental Research, UFC in Leipzig, Germany, co-author of the new paper, said in a statement, these findings represent an important step in being able to reuse hard-to-recycle polyurethane products. Perhaps we invented something out of sync with the natural ecosystem, plastics. And it took a certain amount of time before something emerged that adapted to eat it and
there's
decompose
multiple
it.
things. There's also a fungus called Pestiolopsis microspora that devours plastic, really breaks it down to sugar.
I mean, Earth is way more durable than we think it is, and we have this arrogance that humans are just going to be this destructive thing. But if we're natural to this Earth, eventually it's going to return to equilibrium, like I said earlier. So I think it's a great white pill. So it's good to hear.
Well, again,
One more thing, too. We even have this other story from 2018, an oil-eating bacterium that can clean up pollution and spills. eats petroleum, eats the oil that leaks. These things adapt and create it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be overly optimistic and kick my feet back and be like, we don't got to do anything. Just let it go. Life takes care of itself. But it does seem that we could be optimistic. And these people who claim we must sacrifice our lives, our livelihoods, and our businesses so they can have private jets might actually be lying to us.
100%.
And
Consolidation of wealth.
we should be optimistic because that's the only real way to move forward in a solution-based reality. And another thing that you're talking about specifically here with a lot of these people that are big global warming proponents, a lot of them right now, there's articles, there's research happening right now with people saying in this space like, hey, you know, with these COVID restrictions, a lot less people are moving around. A lot less people are traveling. A lot less people are actually causing global warming. They're not driving everywhere. This is good, and maybe we should keep these restrictions for the benefit of the planet.
Saki today, she said, you get the vaccines, you still have to wear the mask, you still have to social distance. They're not going to give this up. They want to return to like a neo-feudal society where you stay in your little village, you stay in your little 9 to 5, you don't travel, you don't see the world, you're isolated. That's the best thing for them. And
It's
serfdom, and they'll hide behind environmentalism to get us there.
Keeping people isolated accelerates internet ideologies that they can control.
Exactly.
So if people can't interact in real life, and when you go online, they control what opinions you're allowed to see, they are mass social engineering the culture of the United States and the world, whether it's intentional or not. It's literally happening.
Agreed.
Did you see, since we've been locked down, the temperature on Earth has gone up 0.1 to 0.3%.
What?
Yeah, still global warming. It wasn't humans. Or at least it's not
There's
solely
been multiple
humans.
ice ages. I mean, everything they talk
We're
about.
in an ice age.
Yeah.
We're coming
Yeah.
out of an ice age
Yeah.
right now. We're in an interglacial
Let's talk
period
about
of the last ice age.
Let's talk about the censorship
current
issue,
ice age.
and because of the lockdown, the mass social engineering. I have this story from theblaze.com. Now, I emphasize The Blaze. This is Glenn Beck, conservative, host of progressive media accounts, claim they've been arbitrarily demonetized by YouTube. Widespread crackdown, ? For the longest time, it was conservatives who were getting nuked predominantly. And now it seems to be swallowing up many progressives. They're not going after the establishment elite types, though. They're going after those who criticize Joe Biden. The Blaze says, several independent progressive media personalities spoke out recently claiming their YouTube accounts were arbitrarily censored by the video platform for publishing or covering content deemed harmful. Independent journalist Caitlin Johnstone first reported on the news, further advancing speculation that the Google-owned video company is engaging in a widespread content crackdown. Johnstone wrote in a blog post Wednesday that progressive commentators Graham Elwood, The Progressive Soapbox, The Convo Couch, Frank Analysis, Hannah Reloaded, and CyberDeviant531 have all received notifications from YouTube that their videos are no longer permitted to earn money through the platform's various monetization features, as has Ford Fisher, a respected freelancer who films U.S. political demonstrations. What we're seeing right now, again, whether intentional or not, we can't go to the bar. We can't go to restaurants and talk to other people on the ground. All we can do is go on Twitter and see the radicalization. You can see them scream in your face over and over again, insurrection, insurrection, insurrection. I know people in Chicago who have no business in politics. People who spend their lives just like working behind a bar at a bar and don't care for politics and they love football. All of a sudden now the only thing they talk about is why Trump was bad and why we need all of this far left policy, because the only social interactions they're actually having are online. Now, I will take this moment to stress, you didn't think they were going to come for progressives. Yeah. A lot of people thought it was only going to be conservatives. The reality is most of us who are advocating for free speech, including many conservatives, said they will come for you. They don't like you. So go to timcast.com, become a member, and provide us that shield because they will ban us. My Facebook was shut down.
I was just on the Convo Couch, one of the ones they listed, who are great guys, super leftist. They were working with me. They were talking about, they loved what we did down in Reoccupy. They were actually trying to work towards a solution. They weren't controlled opposition like AOC. But you go back to history. I mean, the second the communists take over, the first people they kill are the intellectuals, the academics, all the true believers. They don't need them anymore.
Who fomented the revolution in the first place and who are a threat to their power.
Exactly. The Trotskys, whoever.
And I remember getting demonetized a few years ago, and a lot of people, kind of celebrating it. I'm like, this is going to hit you. Yep. And I've been saying this for years. We were even talking about this exact point just a few weeks ago, saying that a lot of the leftists are going to get hit soon, especially with the establishment coming in. It's happening now.
No longer needing them.
And no longer needing them. And I even tweeted today, I feel sorry this happened, and I think they should be censored, even though I don't believe what they believe in. It doesn't matter. The principle still stands. The ideas should be fought through better ideas. And sadly, that's not happening. And it's devastating. When you get demonetized, I know a lot of companies, independent media, that haven't come come back from it, that can't operate anymore, don't operate anymore. And many times they are a lot better than the trash, than the division, than the agenda that they're pushing on the mainstream media. And we're going to have less and less of that.
I got real mad today because we're getting news about these stimulus checks. They're now going to means test them. So Joe Biden, the Democrats told everybody, vote the Democrats, get them in, and you're going to get $2,000. Then they said, well, we actually mean 1,400. It's a supplement to the 600 you already got. And then I rolled my eyes and I was like, okay, fine, I get it. Many progressives are outraged. Now they're saying, well, I mean, we didn't mean everyone. We just meant $1,400 checks to those who make less than $50K a year, which is, it keeps changing. Now that's important for people. It's going to affect your life. What was CNN talking about all day? Marjorie Taylor Greene. What was on the what's the top headline story for everybody? What's all they're talking about is Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't care. No disrespect to her. I know the left wants to bring it. I don't know a whole lot about her. I think she said dumb things, but she's a freshman congresswoman. Right. She is not of that much political consequence for them to just try and hammer in. But you know what it is? It is what I was saying, how they isolate us. Then they hammer in these ideas. Which tribe are you in? They say, you know she's bad, right? You must denounce her, right? And the Republicans go right along with it. And they voted. 11 Republicans voted to strip her of her committees. This is what we're getting. Instead of being told about why we're being shut down, why we're being strangled out, why our businesses are destroyed, they're saying, look at the nasty, mean person on the internet. I don't care.
They've perfected social engineering. I mean, it's like, bread and circuses, like you said, the social isolation. I mean, it's coming down to a science in terms of how they're controlling people. And I'm meeting people in my day-to-day life that are just completely hysterical over COVID fears. They're just dehumanizing everyone around them.
Not controlling people, but making them mentally ill.
Mentally ill. You're right. It's a mental illness. You're absolutely right.
I think a lot of these representatives that are supposed to be representing us suffer from narcissistic personality disorder. I mean, everything is me. Look at what I did. Look at this. And
AOC is a textbook definition.
And they keep forgetting they're supposed to be representing the people who are actually struggling out there, and they're not doing that.
Right, exactly.
Well, I can only imagine it's going to get worse. If they're coming for progressives, that means the path which we can walk on online, on YouTube, on Twitter, is getting ever narrower.
Yeah, but water flows whether there's a path for it or not. So if they try and stifle this path, another one will be formed. We talk about it almost daily.
That's why I built, that's why we are all building Timcast.com and encouraging people to join, because something I should have done a long time ago. I mean, I had the website, but it was just some generic website that rehosted videos. Now we're doing exclusive content and trying to actually build something out. Probably was dumb of us not to do it a long time ago, to realize that we can't rely on other people's platforms when they're massive, monopolistic, and they have insane views, and they ban people for insane reasons. And of course, they're going to ban us at some point.
And that's why you can't give up, because if everything was working, they wouldn't need the propaganda. They wouldn't need the gaslighting. They wouldn't need all this massive disinformation. They're obviously worried. That's why they keep moving the new horizons. I'm sure they're going to come after your website now to get you delisted with either the domains or the servers or whatever it is. So the goalposts are moving in a good way, but it's also we're in a constant chase, essentially.
One of these individuals who got demonetized has a really excellent video that says Tim Pool just about creams his pants over Capitol building riot. Oh, okay. I'm sure. This looks like it's a really old video too. That has nothing to do with. Wow, it looks like she faked it. Because it's a video of me in Philadelphia, and we haven't been there in a very long time. In fact, it's the old set from 2018.
Oh, funny.
So I'm wondering what that has to do with anything having to do with the riot. And she's showing clips. Maybe that's why she got banned. Maybe the reality is some of these people just make fake content, I guess.
Huh.
There are some bad apples, and they deserve to be called out 100%. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen that do things that are not genuine, that are not good. But when you compare the harm to mainstream media, it's absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
And if we're going to scrutinize independent media, let's scrutinize all media, including the mainstream media. At least make it fair. At least make it a free market where the same rules apply to everyone. They don't. There's different rules applying to this channel, my channel, and all the other independent media channels out there. And mainstream media doesn't need to play by any of them. They could show whatever they want. There's CNN individuals eating brains. Human brains on national
TV.
Television.
Yep.
That's okay. They're showing
Reza
riots.
Aslan, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, why do you think they blew
Maybe
up?
that's why
they blew up
he kind
QAnon.
of went with a little wacky there.
They blew up QAnon. They made it to be this
nuts.
massive issue that it really wasn't, and they used it as their, casus belli to declare war on independent media outlets, independent journalists, because anyone who could be promoting anything outside the orthodoxy, outside the establishment's narrative, must be promoting dangerous conspiracy theories or anything that's wrong think.
So this guy, Reza Aslan, outraged engages Hindus by eating human brains in CNN documentary. He
In
really
India.
did this.
He went to India.
And CNN airs this on
cannibals.
TV. This guy is still a verified user on these platforms. He was posting extremely messed up things with the Covington kids.
Yeah.
This guy routinely posts inflammatory and damn near incitement. Like when, let's just put it that way. I think there's been a few instances where people were shocked that Twitter didn't ban him or take his stuff
Yeah,
down.
he's been accused many times of threatening violence against individuals because of their political ideas.
I do think that I mean this sincerely. I think eating the brain broke his psyche. I don't mean like he ate the brain and it poisoned him. I mean, you can't come back from that.
But his T levels are through the roof right now.
No, listen. He did something on TV. It's almost like he was sitting there and the camera was on and they were like, "Do it, eat the brain. Come on, you want to be a big show,
he
right?"
probably had a CNN producer being like, "Well, you want the show? You want to do good? You want ratings?"
I wouldn't be surprised if he has PTSD and he broke down and cried afterwards because they pushed him beyond what a regular human can do.
I think the cannibal grabbed him or like threw him down and started yelling.
No,
he didn't.
no.
I thought remember he was trying to get up.
No. The cannibal was acting wild and I
Yeah.
think did aggress at him in some way, but he chose to eat the brain voluntarily.
Got it.
And it was a small piece of charred brain that he eats. And I don't think eating the brain gave him like what is it called, encephalopathy? Doesn't give you like the shakes?
Yeah.
I don't think it like poisoned him. I think it mentally broke him. And now he's basically like lost it from eating brain.
It was the trauma. It wasn't so much what he ate. Yeah.
Yeah, because like imagine you're in the situation where you're powerless. You have a company, you have a contract that say, do it, you have to, it's your contract, eat the brain. And then you're like, I guess I have to, and then you do it. You can never come back from that. For the rest of his life, the dude's a cannibal.
He could have taken down CNN, just been like, these guys wanted me to become a cannibal on air, and that would have been the end of them. But
He's a cannibal.
But money.
He is
But
a
money.
cannibal.
Yeah.
But money.
And I know we're kind of derailing, but he's become this really vile individual on the internet. And we talked about the mind virus, how people are just really nasty and demoralized. And what he's doing is absolutely a very large component of the nastiness. And I have to wonder if what we saw from him eating brain is a really good example of how a lot of people feel, but on lower levels. They feel they're forced to say these things. They have no choice. How many people genuinely agree? There was a woman who posted, she was voting for all white people to be put on a barge and kicked out to sea. And a white guy responded with like, "Oh man, I would volunteer for that." And it's like, does he really agree with that? Or does he cry himself to bed at night while he literally advocates for himself being exiled on a boat
it's like
for
mass
his race?
Stockholm syndrome. Like it's just like
Look at the self-hate. Look at the disparaging, this nasty self-harm that's being glorified on the media.
It's a
on
virtue
the
to be a victim,
algorithms,
yeah.
on social media. This is somehow a good thing.
Right.
It's not. You should be confident. You should respect yourself, because only when you respect yourself, you could only then truly respect others. And until you start having confidence and love and compassion for yourself, how can you have it for anyone else?
Well, they've tied social status to either being a victim or either just being, self-hating for the most part. And that's, you rise through the ranks of society if you've had so many different traumatic experiences that you can, like AOC basically using her sexual assault when questioned on policy issues. I mean, that's what's happening in society. There's no virtue anymore, and there's no social status assigned to being an independent, healthy, free-thinking adult. It's assigned
Follower
to being
count.
a child.
Exactly.
Or a follower. It's assigned to being a child.
It's a score. It's your follower count. It's your likes. It's your retweets. It's your ratings.
Yeah.
So this guy,
Your social credit.
This guy, and now it's visible.
Yeah.
So this guy Reza, my opinion on this brain eating thing was that Vice was really big, and they were like, "You want to beat Vice, right? You want to be big." Because I'll tell you this: when I left Vice, I probably had 1,000 people say, "What can we do to get that that kind of zeal, that kind of enthusiasm, that kind of coolness, that
Edginess, yeah.
So along comes this dude, and he ate human brain. I feel like that is the apex of desperation for social acceptance. He wanted to be cool and edgy like Vice. He wanted to fit in and have a big show with tons of ratings and be famous. So he literally ate human brain. He could never come back for that. It broke him. And now the reason I hammer that point is, think about the smaller instances where people do this stuff. The false accusations, the defense of people, the people who pile on, say, attacking Brett Kavanaugh. When, come on, what sane people thought those allegations about him lining up outside of a dormitory,
Gang rapes,
gang raping women? That's the most insane thing we've ever heard. But these people have no force of will. So what happens is, people like us, probably everybody in this room, if someone said eat a brain, we'd be like, no. And they'd be like, well, everyone will make fun of you if you don't. I'm like, I don't care. I'm not eating brain. But then you have the other portion of society where they're like, is it the only way to fit in? okay, I'll do it.
You know, firsthand, I worked in Los Angeles and Hollywood in the entertainment industry for like 10 years. And I would do these commercials, like, and I'd go and read, and they'd be like, okay, just say, I don't care what's in it. It tastes great. And it was everything I didn't believe. And I would do it for the money. And I started to become such a nasty person. It was because I hated myself for that stupid stuff I would say that I didn't believe. And I could totally see these people doing it not only with their actions but with their words, which are a type of action.
Well, when you hate yourself, you're a good consumer because you always need to fill that empty void inside of yourself with empty Chinese-made trinkets made by slaves.
Bought on
Illegal
credit.
Exactly.
Wouldn't then it be not a bad thing to get all of these mass consumer lunatics to stop buying stuff? Like the people who fulfill themselves by eating brain to prove their worth or buying things they don't need. Shouldn't we be encouraging people to roll up their sleeves and go chop some wood? Go outside. Go outside. Stop, filling up your gas tank. Stop buying butane. Literally just take some wood, cut it up into bits, do the hard work, and enjoy the fire with your friends outside.
This goes full circle to what we were talking about earlier. There's no transcendence in society. No one's living for a higher purpose than themselves. It's like this hyper-individualistic, hedonistic, pleasure, self-serving that just corrupts all of society. Because really the basis of society is not really the individual. It should really be the family unit, or some kind of group structure. But that's why they're trying to atomize everyone. Live in your pod, eat your bugs, that whole kind of shtick. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's mentally deranged, self-absorbed lunatics. And to me, that's the definition of a congressman. I'm serious.
Or a senator.
Because when you look at their kind of activities, you look
or
at what they're doing.
Congresswoman.
That's right.
Whatever, potato. When you look at what they're doing the most insidious, ridiculous things to get the most amount of eyeballs, the most amount of attention. That generates money, that generates clicks, that generates you being in a position of power. They are extremely privileged. They are extremely empowered. And for these people to be on national television playing like they're the victims, that they're traumatized, I mean, give me a break.
I think it's even more so for celebrities, which are like neo-aristocrats, and so many people look to them more than they do, the congresswoman like AOC, who is a celebrity in her own right, but they're the ones who take all these different impulses in society that we're talking about and put them on steroids, and they're just even heightened. I mean, that's why you see the most ridiculous cases in like Page 6 or whatever it is, because it's just a never-ending cycle to outdo the previous more insane instance of whatever it is.
In order to earn points, you got to one up the next
and
guy.
it's kind of like
you got to eat human brain.
Because of desperation. I think people like your average person are seeking like attention so that they can get some money to survive, or some resources, or some attention's kind of a resource too.
I think it's because we removed religion. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Ian, continue.
So politicians are trying to placate that desperation with these social programs, and it's not working. But then it's this conversation I feel like is becoming circular, because it's like throughout human history we've always been desperate to survive. We're not owed a living. We have to go out and take it, and we've always been competing to survive against wild animals or against other humans.
Maybe I'll say this: we broke ourselves away from that, where now we as Americans, especially Europeans, but all over the world, people who live in luxury, don't have to fight to survive. You wake up, there's food everywhere, an insane amount.
First world problems.
Yeah, first world problems are all we really have. Shouldn't people get back? There's a threshold we met where we can survive now. Right. Can't people just be happy sitting under the stars with their friends and their family, smiling and climbing trees?
We made it. Animals don't kill us randomly now.
But what I mean is, I think most of us here really enjoy the outdoors. Starting a fire. Ian loves working out ways to start fires on his own.
Yeah, but when I was really poor, I was hard to love anything. I was obsessed with where am I going to get am I going to be able to pay rent? Am I going to be out on the street next month? Can I afford? Why do I have to eat this junk? Because I can't afford better food. And it was terrible.
I think the better food thing's a myth, actually, because I was poor and I ate decently well.
There's always going to be
I was probably not eating enough.
I eat really good now. We buy the best and such a huge variety of oils and vinegars and
lots of vinegar
and meats
had
and
to say
cheeses
vinegar.
and like vegetables and all of anything we want we have access to.
I'll be honest,
because of that I can enjoy the little things.
I don't think we eat the best. I mean, we literally have like bacon and bread. You know what I mean? It's not like we're having filet mignon every night or something.
I feel very privileged.
We should.
I feel
Luke wants me to order those Peter Luger
steaks.
Yes.
Waiting.
because of our position.
Just have eggs and bacon for breakfast.
Honestly, I've made sure that we have access to all the nutrients we need. And it's
sure. I definitely can understand.
I am
that.
one of those people that enjoys the little things. Like I can sit in a room with a book and just be happy for days.
That's what I mean. you've got a lot of people who live in cities who are desperate to fit in with their tribe to earn those social media points. So I'm not saying, like, obviously, we have a successful business and we're privileged in that regard. But even, when I was broke and living on couches, my fulfillment didn't come from owning stuff. It came from experiences with my friends, going and skateboarding, getting that new trick, and just going on adventures to new places, even if it was just walking down the tracks to see where the tracks went. So many people now are tied to fulfillment from getting other people to say they like them, to prove it, or to own something to prove they've got something.
Their car, because if they lose their car, life gets harder, and they don't want to lose their car.
I mean, when I started my news organization, I literally was, not having any money, couch surfing everywhere. I had to sleep on the floor sometimes, and it was amazing. I had the best time of my life traveling all over the world, all over the United States, hitching rides, hitchhiking,
here's
literally hitchhiking, through so many places, and it was incredible.
I want to tell people your secret to success.
Uh-oh.
Dude literally just got on a speedboat, went to Epstein Island.
Yeah.
Anyone could have done it.
Yeah. There's a couple journalists that literally went around it, but we had this amazing captain that just surprised us.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I got to clarify. Luke went to Epstein Island to document the island.
Yes.
After.
Please no misconceptions here.
Right around
I
there,
wasn't an invitee.
Yeah.
I wasn't invited. I came there to expose the
think
story.
About,
Yep.
where's the sense of adventure where people are satisfied by just exploring the woods? Going for a walk and looking at flowers.
That's why there's so much nostalgia in society, because all the things you remember when you were kids, exploring the woods, all that sense of adventure and unknown, it doesn't exist in the modern world as an adult anymore for the most part. So there's so much nostalgia in society. You see it everywhere.
It does, though.
Yeah.
It literally does.
What do you mean?
You could look, man. I'll tell you. You live in New York.
Yeah.
Is there a borough you've never been to?
Is there a what?
A borough you've never been to?
No.
You've been to all the boroughs.
Yeah.
Have you walked every block of Staten Island?
I have not. No.
You could literally go for a walk through Staten Island, and I chose that on purpose because I don't think you.
I don't think I would schlep there.
Because nobody goes Staten
I
Island.
do know someone who went every block in Manhattan, and they documented it. It was a very cool thing.
But it's
they did.
rare.
It's very rare. No,
I know people who. I'll be honest. Most of the people I knew in Brooklyn had never been to the Bronx. No joke.
Yeah.
No joke. Or Staten Island.
Yeah, I believe it.
Definitely went to Staten Island. I went and walked around on the beach.
But it's like the way, I think it's like the mindset, because you can enjoy the shape of a tree, like the tree branch, and whoa.
And the light
really
breaking through it, or look at the clouds.
Or you can be stressed about what's coming up in 2 hours, that you got to be at that thing. So F this tree.
But it's like,
it's kind of like we have so much information in society. You have Wikipedia at your fingertips. You can get everything, but there's no interest in finding that knowledge. It's the same thing. You could travel anywhere tomorrow, at least not during COVID.
There's no self-fulfillment.
There's no drive to do it, though.
Like, I'm fulfilled independently. Like, when I go skate, I'm skating here for the most part by myself. Sometimes me and Adam will be skating, but typically I'll go skate, the mini ramp, and I'll decide what tricks I want to do for me by myself, and I'm fulfilled by doing it. But I don't look to satisfaction from any other person.
It's like that book Bowling Alone, with basically the fall of American kind of the town and the community, and a lot of the stuff we're talking about. It's the guy bowling alone, because it's just like we've lost kind of bonds with, obviously it goes beyond just what people think of you, but there are bonds being broken with other people, which also gives you value. It's not just always what other people think of you, but there is a benefit to having a social network that's healthy and productive.
I think we might be too pessimistic, because I think human beings naturally have this drive to explore and to learn, but a lot of it is just being squashed out by the school system, by government, the mainstream media, and now social media that wants to extinguish this kind of drive within human beings.
Don't people have less free time now than they did 50, 60 years ago? I remember reading a study somewhere.
I don't necessarily agree with that.
I don't know if it's true. I just remember.
But it's probably true in some context. But I'll tell you, the saying goes that a poor person today has better dental care than Rockefeller did at the height of his oil baronship, or whatever you want to call it.
I so badly wanted to have kids in my 20s and travel around the world with my wife, and I didn't have the money, so I didn't.
But no one could do that. You know what I mean?
Some people could.
Some people could, but it doesn't mean you're entitled to or should expect it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I didn't have kids because I couldn't afford it.
When could anyone ever afford kids? That's a myth.
You can afford kids.
It's a myth.
They're not that. They're like $50,000 a year.
But what about the people who literally lived in the wilderness and had kids? It's a myth that you can't afford to have kids.
They died at the age of 20.
Most people have kids, don't plan them. I don't think they would call them accidents.
I was not planned.
It's not like they said, okay, let's have a kid in 9 months, so let's get to it. No, people would hook up and they'd have kids, and then they would fight to survive for their kids.
I didn't want to fight to survive. I wanted to share a bountiful life with my children.
Casey Neistat, one of the most successful individuals in the new internet age, had a kid, I think, when he was 16. And he was living in a trailer. I think he was homeless at one point. And then he went on to become one of the greatest, internet entrepreneurs of this generation. And it's legit. He revolutionized YouTube vlogging. And he had a kid well before he was prepared or capable. And he was poor as heck, but he made it work. I think this idea that you have to be rich or enough to do it, I don't necessarily agree. I think the problem is, are you fulfilled internally or externally? And there's too many people in this world, in this country, who are looking for satisfaction from they're looking for, they're looking to other people to validate their existence instead of validating it on their own, right? So I think I made that point. We don't have a lot of time, and I want to do this next segment, which is totally the worst segue ever because it's a totally different subject. So let's jump. I don't know if you want to add anything.
I don't know. We're talking about like the best conversation on earth.
Well, I want to jump to a totally unrelated story as our final segment for tonight's show. Because we got to do it. And
DMT.
I hate it when we're like, we got this thing we got to talk about and we don't do it. This one is not the biggest breaking news in the world, but I think it's a really important story to talk about. This video is going viral, and I'll give you guys a graphic warning.
Oh my God.
A trigger warning, as it were.
I'm gonna go use the bathroom.
Are you serious?
You told me the story already before.
And you don't want to be involved in the conversation?
I will. I know what you're saying, but I'm gonna go really quickly.
I thought Luke was bailing out. I'm like, no, this is a conversation.
No, but I don't want to hear it.
Crazy.
This is look. I mean this. Like, I'm not a big fan of the whole trigger warnings because someone says a naughty word. This is death. This is brutal murder. This is a conversation about some real stuff. So if it's not something you want to listen to,
Tim's going to share his trauma with us because he watched this video 4 times earlier.
I think I watched it more than 4 times.
Sometimes you just got to force yourself to see it.
I'm a firm believer in when these things are happening online, you can't hide from them.
Yeah.
All right, so let me tell you the story. 3 dead in a fight over snow. Man, 47, shoots feuding neighbors with handgun and rifle for shoveling snow into his yard before turning gun on himself. Normally, we've seen stories like this. People get into a fight, a shooting happens. It happens all the time. This time, we have full video of everything that happened with full audio. It is graphic. It is horrifying. I'm not going to play the video, but we're going to talk about gun ownership, gun rights, and this is a brutal story. So let me give you the details. They say Pennsylvania prosecutors ruled Monday. Triple shooting in Plains Township, a murder-suicide, and closed the case. They said Jeffrey Spade, 47, used 2 firearms to shoot and kill his across-the-street neighbors, James Goy, 50, and Lisa Goy, 48, before committing suicide. Violence broke out during a heated argument about snow removal. Prosecutors say Goys had been dumping snow in Spade's yard, and when he asked them to stop, the couple began yelling obscenities at him. James Goy was said to have shown Spade his fist, made threats and rude gestures. Spade went to his house, came out with a gun, and shot the Goys, then retrieved an AR-15-style rifle and fired more rounds in the street. Spade fatally shot himself inside his home as police arrived on the scene. Now, like I said, I'm not going to show you images of the actual incident. I'm just going to show you stills of before the incident so you can get a general idea of what it looks like. It's a security camera footage that recorded rather clean audio, not the highest resolution. There are 2 people here, and they were yelling obscenities at a man across the street, calling him effectively an emasculating slur. And that was it. The dude eventually just turns around, walks inside, and he comes out with a gun. And the first thing I'll say is, growing up in Chicago, you want to know what the most frustrating thing to me in Chicago when I was with someone who's not from Chicago, not from the city? Road rage. Absolutely hate. I'd be in the city, and I'd have a friend from the suburbs, and we'd be driving. And then someone would cut us off or do something, and they would start screaming and flipping them off. And I had a lot of friends who would do this. You know why you don't do that in Chicago? Because Chicago has people who are armed illegally and will kill you for honor. There are literally instances all the time in Chicago where someone flicks someone else off and it's some gangbanger and he says, "You want to get hard with me?" And he pulls out his gun and he shoots the person. I have been just driving down the street and had someone pull out their gun and fire at my car for no reason. So it is infuriating. I'm like, dude, you need to learn to walk away. You don't want to fight someone because you can get some wackaloon dude who pulls out a gun and shoots you for just because of snow. It happens. Don't pick fights you don't need to engage in. That's the first thing I'll say. And this video is crazy. The dude pulls out the gun and the couple across the street don't do anything. The woman actually starts yelling at the guy. And then he shoots him several times and they start screaming. Bystanders eventually run away. No one's there to help them. The dude goes in his house, gets an AR-15, comes out, And I'm sorry, this is a gruesome conversation. The woman on the ground, injured after being shot, I believe twice in the head. He points the AR at her. He shoots her again. Point blank. He then walks up to the guy. You can't see the guy because he's now by the house and he's moaning and calling for help. And then this dude, he kills him. The crazy thing about the story is sometimes people do crazy things. The guy could have pulled out a knife or something. He could have gotten any weapon he wanted. But I was thinking about what would have happened if this dude, this victim, was open carrying. If he had a holstered gun on his hip, would that guy across the street actually have come out with the gun to confront him? Or would he have been like, that dude's armed, I don't want to get shot? Would he have been concerned? Or what if he came out with the gun and then the other guy held his gun and said, drop it, don't do it? Would the other guy have been like, oh man, I'm going to get shot? There are a lot of questions, a lot of things to bring up in a story like this. The main reason I want to talk about it is just because it's like, it's going viral, and we actually have a full video of the full incident. And it raised a lot of questions about when you pick your battles, when you run, why these people didn't run, what were they thinking, why they weren't defending themselves. I don't know, man. What do you guys think?
I 100% think if he did have open carry and he was armed, the whole dynamic would have changed. I mean, this guy obviously went postal, he went nuts. He had this momentary, this fleeting moment of power. He had full control over them. He probably loved it, and he didn't want to give it up. And he had to go the full way, and the full way eventually led to their deaths and his death. Had there been something that prevented him from having that full, kind of rush of power, that kind of high, it could have changed the dynamics. No lives would have been lost. Mexican standoff, who knows? But I think it certainly would have changed, I think, for the better.
Well, I personally grew up in New York City, and, as a young kid, I saw a lot of gun violence. I moved to New Hampshire, and in New Hampshire, a lot of people open carry, mainly because you're in the middle of the woods, and if there's a wildlife, you need to protect yourself. This is why you see a lot of people having a gun on their hip. When I lived there, I had a gun on my hip everywhere I went. I had no problems. Everyone was very nice. Everyone was very cordial. And we have to understand here that, having a firearm on your hip is a huge, huge responsibility. And even though I had no problems with anyone ever, it could be not a result of having that. But I remember even, kind of coaching myself and talking to myself and looking up and researching de-escalation techniques, because I know if I have a firearm, I'm going to need to do everything in my power to de-escalate any kind of aggressive situation to make sure it doesn't erupt into a violent one, because I've seen in New York City just the slightest thing. I mean, I was involved in so many fights and jumps and like crazy stuff over the smallest, littlest, pathetic issues, and it all revolved around ego. People could have walked away. I could have walked away as a young kid. I know a lot of other kids that should have walked away. They didn't. It was their ego. It was their strong-headedness that led them to a conflict. And I still don't know a lot about this particular story. It's extremely graphic. The first time you told me about it, I didn't feel good. That's why I walked out. I didn't want to hear it again. But it's a reality that we need to understand, that we need to face. But a bigger one is, if I could speculate here, individuals who usually do commit such crimes at that kind of age group usually don't have a family, usually don't have a purpose, usually don't have a belief in God.
Full circle.
Nothing to lose.
And exactly, have nothing to lose. And that's why this guy essentially ended up killing himself and did something incredibly wrong that, if he had a belief in God, he wouldn't be doing.
And there's probably a lot of guys like him that are just one bad day away from losing it all.
And I can't say this enough. If you are a gun owner, I am a gun owner, it is your responsibility to de-escalate. Yeah. I don't care the situation. I don't care your ego. I don't care if you have a girlfriend or how you look in front of everyone or how many people are watching. It is your sole duty as someone who is armed to make sure that you avoid any kind of conflict, any kind of escalation event that, of course, will lead towards more violence, because when it sparks so bad, and a lot of people are usually traumatized and left wondering, why did this happen? And it gets bad. I saw it in New York City. I had friends that died. I don't want to get into some of the stories that I want to get into, but Gavin,
you made an interesting point about him having the power. He was being called a disparaging term that was emasculating. And so then he's like, oh, you want to call me that? And basically says it over and over again at the guy as he shoots him. And I wonder if he didn't actually have the power to do it, not because, of course he was armed. But what if the other guy was armed? Would that have led to him being like, there's nothing I can do, the dude's armed, he'll just fire back at me? Was it that he actually had, there was that imbalance of power where he knew they could not stop him, and then he went nuts.
Oh, it's adrenaline. I think there was some chemicals, shifting through his body that pushed him over the edge as well. But I think also just the dynamics of the situation also kind of emboldened him, if that's the right word to say. I mean, I think that it's a really interesting case from a psychological standpoint. I mean, you're looking at this dynamic. He got emasculated, like you said. He was trying to preserve his honor. It seems like a little thing, but it could lead to bloodshed.
It's all in his head.
Yeah.
And people need to understand, de-escalate. And I put myself even through mental situations. What's going to happen if there's a road rage incident? What's going to happen if there's an incident when someone bumps into me? What am I going to do when I have my firearm to make sure that this doesn't escalate any further? And seriously, I mean, I can't stress this enough. You guys, if you have a firearm, you need to do this. Concealed carry, open carry, doesn't matter personally. You need to de-escalate.
This may be a weird thing, but tying it to like bullying, I think there's a lot of talk gets put into bullying, how to stop it, how to prevent it. First of all, I think bullying is a good thing, but I think what we do wrong is that we don't teach people how to fight back, and it creates this situation where people can basically say nasty things to other people, and that slowly builds up in their head over the years. So this guy probably was, who knows, maybe he was bullied his whole life and it's just been brewing in him. Had we instilled in young people, if someone says something to you, nasty, whatever it is, fight back, defend yourself. You may get beat, but punch back. It creates a deterrent. So no one's going to just actively try to just mess with other people. I think that's a little thing. It's a small variable in this whole thing as a society, but I have seen people who've just been their whole life just been on the receiving end of just getting put down, and then they snap.
We did a segment a while back. We were talking with Cassandra Fairbanks about West Virginia and gun ownership in these states where people allow open carry. And we're talking about like living in the middle of nowhere, being armed, and castle doctrine kind of states. The general idea was people don't mess with each other because they'll die.
Right.
If you're trying to break into someone's house in probably New Hampshire, New Hampshire's castle doctrine, right?
I believe so, yeah.
You just get shot.
Yep.
So people don't do it.
Yep.
There's an equalizing effect to where it's like you will be a victim. But when people know that they control the power, because, I mean, this guy was going to commit the ultimate crime.
It's making me think about social media interactions. And like you're saying, de-escalate. But when you go on Twitter and you see people say something and then someone argues with them and then it's this ego battle, and where's the de-escalation? That's what it comes to, is we need to start de-escalating online.
You brought up a good point, especially in the kind of world star hip-hop era. And you see a lot of violence linked to social media use, not just the kind of mental illness that's promoted by the algorithms that are out there by big tech that manipulate our human emotions, but also because of, hey, I got your girlfriend, or hey, I did this to you, or hey, I'm disrespecting you. And then you see this all the time on World Star Hip Hop, people reacting, going up and having, very dangerous, fights and altercations.
It elevates the dynamics you talked about with the pride, the honor, the ego, that whole thing.
Like,
but also, I mean, you talked about the situation of power. I mean, all the mass shootings, obviously, I mean, it's a cliche talking point, but it always happens in gun-free zones. It always happens in places where all of a sudden you become the master of that domain. You're in charge. You're calling the shots. You're telling people where to do, what to say, and you could just start, you live like a god for a few minutes. And that's why they're drawn to these places to commit these heinous crimes, because it gives them power in their life that they never had.
Seth Rogen, when he called that guy stupid, if that guy seemed to handle it, I read the thread and the guy kind of laughed it off, but if he had said that to the wrong person and that person just stewed for the weeks and months and years thinking about Seth Rogen, and that guy went crazy and then went and hunted Seth Rogen down, that would have been devastating for Seth Rogen and all the people that he knows. And that kind of stuff can happen if you act like an ego idiot. So it's so important.
I think it was Mike Tyson who said a lot of people online are acting like they never got punched in the face.
Yeah, that's why bullying is good. Yeah, that's why bullying is good. If you bully and you get bullied, it creates this dynamic where you're not going to mess with people. I'm not saying you have to get rid of it. I'm not saying it's always great, but I'm saying there's a balance in society. It's part of growing up. It's part of developing. Fair. Conflict and struggle. That's a better word.
Bullying is typically like a disproportionate amount of power. Someone,
Right. I just think teaching people to fight back. I think, in schools they always teach you, you go tell your teacher, go report them, whatever. I think if you get bullied or you get made fun of, push back, do something. It's better in the long term, at least in my
I'm fascinated with videos of like people fighting back against bullies and just
it's always
giving
great.
It to them.
Remember that video like years ago that I think it was in Australia. It was like that fat kid who was like getting pushed around. Then he like picked the guy up and he like threw him down. It was like everyone loved it. Everyone loved it. was a great power dynamic. It shifted.
He crushed the guy's back, but like he messed him up.
But that guy will never. That guy, he probably
Right.
did the best thing to him, because the guy that got thrown on the floor, he's never going to go make fun of the crazy neighbor, because he knows something bad could happen, and instilled in him a fear of messing with people. And now you mess with people less.
If we had a personal combat expert on the show right now, they would be telling us that's why jiu-jitsu is great and martial arts are so important to teach young people and people in general.
I think I may have referenced this at one point on this show, maybe months ago. There's a really funny video where a martial arts instructor promises to teach people the ultimate move to always win every fight they ever encounter. And everyone's all like, oh, we're going to learn from this master. And he's like, this one technique, I can guarantee you will win every fight. So they all gather around. They're all sitting there, and he stands there. And then he has his sparring partner walk up to him, and everyone's all ready. And then the master gets his fists ready and then waves his arms in the air and runs full speed the other direction and leaves the building. And then everyone starts laughing. And he comes back in and says, any fight you can escape is the fight you've won. The one technique to always win a fight is not to fight. And this is someone who's teaching people how to fight. It's remarkable how the people who know why you don't have these conflicts, why you don't want to fight, are the ones who are typically pretty good at it.
And when you're repeatedly bullied, you're not able to escape. Those are situations where a kid has to see the same person at school.
No.
And in those situations, I mean, honestly, I think fighting back is the right move.
That's the only thing to change the
Defending
dynamic.
yourself.
I was
fighting
bullied
back
a
is
lot for not speaking English and looking weird and being super pale, and I had the whole bowl haircut in Brooklyn, New York. And the way I got out of it is by fighting, But after a year and a half of absolute misery and torture and getting abused every day as a little child, it has an effect on you. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for that experience. And for me, this is why I always have a thing for the underdog. I always want the underdog to win. I always want to bet on the underdog. I always want to root for them. And I think that's because of my experiences.
I was the same. We moved around a lot. I was always the new kid. I got bullied. I remember one time this kid would not stop incessantly, just on my case constantly. I remember punching him in the face, and it was the best feeling. He never bothered me again. No one bothered me again. It changes the dynamic. And obviously, if it happens young when the stakes are low, it could avoid a situation like we just talked about, which was heinous, if that's a big jump.
We need to teach people to stand up for themselves in defense. We don't want people to aggress. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So if someone's attacking you, you defend yourself. You don't just sit there and let the attack happen.
You don't want to break them. You want to subdue them, ultimately.
Yeah, and I think the law is actually, perspective of the law, it's like if you have the ability
to run.
Or
to flee,
that's
whatever
true.
they say, yeah.
Or to detain them instead of killing them, you should.
Except in Texas, where there's just like you could flee, but you don't have to.
Well, interestingly, like, in New Jersey, I believe you have to flee your home if someone breaks in, and you can.
Did you get it?
And so a lot of what was instantly brought up to me by other people is flee to where? Like, if you have nowhere to go, what do? You just flee into the woods in the middle of winter and then freeze to death? You need a home to live, your food, your shelter. But there are some states that are like, no, you must run away.
Did you get into fights as a kid?
I've only gotten a couple of fights when I was a kid.
How would you get out of it? Or how did you avoid fights in general and navigate it?
I would just not escalate. So I would typically be like, I don't know, man. I don't want to be involved.
I was involved in too many, and that's probably why I slur my words now. Being honest.
I wouldn't fight back, and I just got ostracized. It was terrible. I'd cry. It was horrible.
I'd fight back, and typically that would stop it.
You would fight back. I only got into one fight, and I got the crap kicked.
I got into like 3 fights.
I still think that's better than not fighting, though.
I punched him in the chest, and I hit he had a jean jacket on, and I sliced my finger on the button, and I was like, ow, and then he just started punching me in the face, and I started crying.
Amazingly, I only got into one fight that was actually a sparring fight, where like the other kid was swinging punches, and then we just took a couple punches each, and then eventually the fight just stopped. Because it's like you both get punched several times. I didn't start the fight, and then the other kid just stopped swinging, and then I was like, all right, fight's over. But then they're always grappling matches. The other person just tries to pin you, and they have no idea how to do it.
I will tell you, taking it as long as I do without fighting back, I have a seed of rage in me. It's really, really intense.
Well, the person who's the angriest usually should win the fight. I mean, I just feel like there's some kind of power that comes with being so mad and so pissed off that
you lose focus.
I think it equalizes a bit. I'm not saying it's going to flip it. But
a lot of people don't know how to breathe, and they gas out all the time.
Yep.
Once you learn how to fight and you learn how to breathe,
funnel the anger.
There's a legit tactic in fighting to get your opponent angry on purpose, so that they're not focused on strategy.
Interesting.
And then I briefly took a kung fu lesson because I actually lived above a kung fu dojo. It was really funny. And so the guy, like, whenever I'd walk by, he'd be like, just hang out whenever you're coming down the stairs. And the one thing he explained to me is he was like, it's like active chess almost. You've got to know where they're going to move, when they're going to move, and what your move is going to be. You need to be thinking and strategizing the whole time, fast, in real time. And if you get angry and you lose focus and you go into a blind rage and start swinging, that's when they figure out how to easily trip you, to grapple you, to pin you, to misdirect you, and you've lost focus.
Yeah, the jab and the low kick are the most powerful moves you can make now in like MMA combat. Ian, you should really start doing some MMA. I have some pads. Maybe we could start hitting some pads.
I just don't want to hurt people because I feel like I
Yeah,
would.
but if you're hitting pads, I got some pads. I got some gloves. Maybe we could,
I mean,
Let's-
I like
let's-
jujitsu.
Let's arrange that and now move on to Super Chats.
I got into music. That was how I get my rage out. I
Smashing
unloaded
drums.
on.
It's fun to
yeah.
punch.
Screaming.
All right,
I mean,
ladies-
gut-
Ladies and
guttural.
gentlemen, if you haven't already, smash the like button. It really, really does help. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. Share the show with your friends if you really do want to help. That's like the most powerful thing you can do. But don't forget, you can become the safety net for the show by signing up at timcast.com to become a member and get access to exclusive members-only segments. They're like 20 minutes long. We got a couple hour-long, 45-minute long, hour-long, and we're going to be doing more and more and more. We're going to be expanding the content. We're going to be launching a vlog. There's a lot to come. In the event we eventually get banned like everybody else, talking about very serious subjects, well, timcast.com is where we will be. So we may have a bonus. I believe we'll have a bonus segment up later tonight. We'll see how things play out. Let's read some Super Chats. We have Max a Trillion says, "Hey, Tim, who is your favorite hero in One Punch Man?" That's not even a fair question. It's obviously Saitama. What about you guys? Who's your favorite hero in One Punch Man?
One Punch Man.
I don't know what you're talking
I don't know
about.
what that is.
The
Yeah.
guy, the guy
Oh.
that throws the punches.
Everyone out. I'm kidding. One Punch Man is
I hear
a
it's good.
very, I think it's like, for a period, it was the most popular anime.
I mean, it's
because
the
it
bald
was-
dude that throws the punches.
Right, One Punch Man.
Yeah, that's the guy.
Saitama.
Oh, yeah,
And
he's my favorite.
it was actually really popular among non-anime fans in the United States. Interestingly, like everybody was into it. So
What is it? He just kills everyone with one punch.
when he chooses to do a regular punch, his regular punch just ends, everyone. And it's ultimate power. It's kind of a satire on these anime where like there's an ultimate power guy. It's really funny. Logan Brown says, "I'm an Army vet, left a few years ago. A full stand down for extremism just made my heart sink." Crazy.
Yeah, we barely got into that. I wanted
Yeah,
to say
that was a good topic.
The whole being against white nationalism is upsetting because the military is nationalist. It's a nationalist organization.
And
So what are they really against? They're trying to end white? I
Well-
don't think so. They're trying to end racism.
They're already going after white nationalists. Like if there's anyone in the military that's openly like a neo-Nazi, they're targeting them. This is just.
but they shouldn't be in the military.
But
you know
if
what
you're
I mean?
nationalist, that's good in the military.
But that goes
No,
back
no,
to what
but
you said
hold on.
earlier, the ideology that's greater than the country. I mean, if it's a white nationalist, they're putting their race above the country.
My issue with it is we have civil
about-
rights in this country.
What about a black nationalist?
It's all bad. Same thing.
It's equally as bad, right?
the-
So why
but-
are they focused on the white people?
Yeah, that's why I don't believe they're being genuine, and it looks like a loyalty play.
Critical race theory is just as racist as anything that's coming out of, white supremacist movements, the 1619 Project. All of those are glorified by the state. They're all promoted by the state because they're the preferred, supremacist ideology, of the day. It's their preferred version. They're going after versions of, supremacy and hateful ideas that they don't like, but it's just hypocritical.
Well,
And
let's. Yeah, we'll read more super chats. Insight of the Ages says, "David Pacman lives in an alternate reality. Please have him on for the lulls. I honestly think it's going to be critical for public discourse. 2 movies on one screen would collide. We need this." I haven't been. I used to watch more of Pacman stuff. I haven't been watching lately, so I'm not entirely sure what you're referring to because I haven't seen any of his latest stuff. So I don't know. I'd have no problem with having David on. I'm not sure he would travel right now though. I think. This is not meant to be disparaging. People on the left don't travel right now. They're scared. They're worried about COVID, and so it's really difficult to book them. We tried having Vosh on with Alex Jones, and he didn't want to do it because of COVID. Tried having a bunch of other leftists on, either with or without Alex Jones. Before we did the show, we were trying to find a guest to sort of balance out and challenge Jones. Nobody would do it. So eventually, we got Michael Malice, and Michael's certainly not a leftist, but he's a very intelligent personality, and I thought would work really well. So we were like, "Michael, you have to come. You're it's gonna be awesome." So we did 2 episodes. It was great. Rad number 2 says the Gadsden flag was originally flown by the Continental Marines, and the U.S. Navy Jack flag from 2001 to 2019 was a variation of the Gadsden. I don't know how that can be seen as an extremist symbol, because D.C. is occupied with barricades in a green zone, and now they're coming and starting to purge people from the military. I mean, I don't know. It seems like really obvious that one ideology has finally taken over, and now they're excising all those who oppose them. So yeah, there you go. Welcome to the new world. All right, let's see. America Float says conservative Tim Pool light equals America Floats. Just trying to keep the country above water. Love y'all except Ian. Only like Ian. Oh, geez.
Someone likes
only
you.
likes
Scandalous.
S-Head says, so glad I'm not an active in the Marines anymore, but I can promise you that anyone openly racist is quickly dealt with gets kicked out. We have a civil rights law. You have to serve and protect this country, and that means people of all different backgrounds and races and ideologies. It's been this way for decades. So that I understand. I just don't trust them. Louis Costagliola says, Tim, I suspect the stand down isn't so much to weed out anyone from the rank and file, but to purge the officer corps of anyone who would question the Progressive Party line. That makes way more sense.
Yeah.
The enlisted people just kind of fall in line and do their thing,
It's like what happened in the Spanish Civil War. It was the junior officers shooting the colonels, and that's how they basically, took over the military and took over. So, I mean, they got to make sure the ranks all the way down are completely in line.
M. Fees says, just ordered my I'm a Gorilla shirt, and I've been reading Ishmael. Tim, have you thought of starting a book club? Ian, keep up the fermentation. Making fun food is one of the most relaxing ways to spend a Sunday. Get your exclusive I Am a Gorilla shirt. You can see it's pinned above the chat, or you can go to timcast.com, click that shop button, and we have the I Am a Gorilla shirt. We also have the Harumph shirt, and we're working on a couple more shirts. We'll have more coming.
If you could pick a book for everyone to read, what would you pick?
Oh, man. I've read a lot of books in my day. I've read Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I'm sorry, Sorcerer's Stone for you Americans. I've read Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. One book I loved was Harry Potter and the Prison of... I'm kidding. Mm-hmm. It's all anybody ever reads. In fact, what I would say is read the original Secret Window from Stephen King. If you've seen the movie, the story was good. The movie wasn't as good. What was Still Life with Woodpecker? I read a really, really long time ago. I enjoyed. I can't remember who wrote that, the author. But I'm not a big book reader. But I will say, watch the movie Secret Window with Johnny Depp, then read the story, and you're going to go, because the story is actually good. I'm not going to spoil it, though.
What books would you guys shout out if you had one?
Fiction, nonfiction, doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
What was the Stranger? Camus?
Oh.
What about yourself?
Jurassic Park.
What was the book? The one about the 7 daily habits, 7 daily traits. I forgot the name of it.
Oh,
Dale
like the
Carnegie.
No, that's how to win friends and influence
win
people.
friends and
Great book.
influence it.
Great
That one.
book.
What about you, Lydia?
Me? I really like Stoicism, so I'd probably recommend Marcus Aurelius's Meditations.
Big time.
The Philosopher King.
Oh, yeah. Here's a book you definitely got to read. It is called Trust Me, I'm Lying by Ryan Holiday. Confessions of a Media Manipulator.
Oh.
I think that's what it is, Confessions of a Media Manipulator. Ryan Holiday is a brilliant dude who wrote about how he tricked journalists into putting fake quotes from fake experts, how to use marketing schemes and stuff. He's a smart guy. So, yeah, Trust Me, I'm Lying. All right, let's see. John Mish says, it's going to be real awkward when they realize that we all wear the Gadsden flag on our working uniform in the Navy. Uh-huh. Yeah, it will be. Think of like there were National Guardsmen apparently posted some Gadsden flag. They're like, get him out. Rocky Range says, what scares me the most is that the left does not seem to be aware of what they are becoming. What angers me the most is my good friend who grew up in the 1930s Germany has to live through a second time. Yeah, during Occupy Wall Street, there was this like older, he was a cop who was like slightly older, middle-aged, not like an old guy. And I saw this leaning up on one of the barricades, talking to some of these young Occupy lefties, and I was like, "Oh, that's really interesting. Cops normally don't talk to people." This guy was born in the Soviet Union, and his parents brought him to the U.S. when he was younger, and so he grew up in the Soviet Union. And he was like, "You guys, I lived through this. I see what you're doing. It's the exact same thing. This is what leads to, eventually this, the communist Soviet takeover, the authoritarianism." And this was after we saw the first initial wave of Occupy, and it became the critical race theory, weird, culty takeover.
It's what my family keeps warning me about every day that I talk to them.
What are they saying?
They're like, communism happened under our lifetime, and it's going to happen again probably soon.
Here?
So, probably in the Western world, yeah.
Yeah. Dano says, This is for Luke to buy some plant allies now that he can take a plot of land in the Chaz Garden for colored and indigenous people.
Thank you. How much
there
was
you
the
go.
super chat?
It was $10.
I'm going to remember that one. I'm writing that down.
John Sochaki says, I guess you can eliminate half of the USMC for doing official U.S. business in Africa, Asia, and the Middle East. There you go. Josh Jack says, Stalin purged his military in 1941 for the exact same reasons the DOD is purging it now. Be ready and don't forget. I'll just leave it there. Quagan says, the far left is racist against Asians. Yes. They support policies that discriminate against Asians, such as affirmative action in universities. Yes, they do. They even hate the Vietnamese. They call themselves, it's a funny joke. They call themselves anti-pho. You know, you guys know what pho is, right?
Pho's delicious.
I don't like it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't like pho.
Gotta have some good
You guys ever have
pho.
shabu?
Nope.
It's where they give you a boiling pot and they give you all the raw vegetables and meat and then you boil it in front of
Oh,
you.
yeah, we did that in Korea.
Yeah, I've had
No, we did Korean barbecue,
Okay.
which is also really fun, where they
Yeah.
put the food in the thing.
Korean barbecue's amazing.
If you're in New York City, go down to Orchard Street in Manhattan and check out An Choi. Maybe it's An Choi.
I was like,
best pho in the world.
We were in Korea, and I was like, I'm going to be very critical of this Korean barbecue because my mom's half Korean, so I've had some good Korean food, and the full Korean people are like, what? I'm just kidding.
They had puppy cafes.
We went to the
Yeah.
dog cafe and like a dog just like
And we
randomly
did a
pooped.
live stream that was demonetized. And I'm like, what?
No. It was the raccoon cafe.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so get this. We literally went to South Korea. I can't remember why did we go there?
I forgot. There was something.
Oh, it was something about missiles in North Korea or whatever. I don't know.
I think there was a conference or something. No,
No,
I don't remember.
no.
But we were in Korea.
It was some global like war issue that we went down there and talked to people. But we decided to spend one day, and I was like, I'm just gonna make a video about this raccoon cafe. It was totally apolitical. They demonetized it.
I was like, let's see how ridiculously safe and PC we could get, and let's do a live stream in a puppy cafe and a raccoon one. We went to both, but we live streamed, I think, at the puppy one. And I think the video's still up on my channel, and that was demonetized. And I'm like, this is ridiculous.
It's a video of we're like at a raccoon cafe,
And it's titled Puppies.
Yeah,
Puppy Cafe.
Yeah. The raccoon cafe is where you go, and there's raccoons everywhere just doing raccoon stuff, and you like watch them as they eat, and they like hobble around.
They like
And
jump on you.
I got demonetized. And I was like, I don't get it, man.
Yeah.
They were funny. They're rolling around and they're wiggling, and I'm like, it's like, we thought doing the friendliest thing possible, they'd be like, okay, you're good, and they're like, nah. So you know what?
Demonetized.
Yeah. All right, Marcus Carter says, our politicians create our divisions simply to retain power. America was designed by the people for the people. Americans en masse must reclaim representation and run for office. Great show, guys. Appreciate it. Petty says, I'd like to point out Madison's original draft of the Bill of Rights, with special attention to the First and Fifth Articles. I'm a staunch anti-federalist, but I sincerely believe the original First Amendment is the only way forward for the Union.
Yeah.
Which one was that one?
Well, Madison had a different version of the Bill of Rights that it wasn't like an
It
addendum.
was 17 articles.
Yeah, and it was incorporated, and there was a preamble, and they talked. It had rights of conscience, I believe, was already included.
The
and
First Amendment, which was never ratified, like I think the Third Amendment, the third article was free speech. The first one had something to do with what, Congress?
Well, there's the Madison proposal, and then there was the First Amendment, which you're talking about, which was the congressional apportionment, which was like 40,000 per seat or something.
Yeah,
It would have made like a crazy size house. But I don't know if this individual is referencing there was a Madison proposal which had even more amendments that had a bigger Bill of Rights that was really interesting.
Oh, wow. Zoe Nation says, I'm the daughter of Army world-class sniper. They need to walk this back now. They can have my guns. All right, I'll stop there. Basically said Molon Labe. I'll put it that way. Spaceco says, China couldn't have Jordan Peterson teaching us to make our beds first and cleaning our rooms. I mean, look how they went after Jordan Peterson.
They attacked him even recently.
Yeah.
In an
Smear
insane
piece.
way. It was so unfair. It's
Self-
crazy.
You should
Self-help
take
is
care of
racist.
yourself and be responsible and find the heaviest thing you can carry and carry it. And then they're like, how dare you, you Nazi?
Self-improvement is white nationalism.
He's going to have Brett Weinstein on the show soon, so I would advise checking
Oh,
that
yeah,
out.
we invited him, but I think travel's an issue. You know, I mean, they're on the other side of the country, you know what I mean?
Jordan?
Maybe. Yeah, didn't they just go to L.A. for Bill Maher, though? I mean, they're always welcome. Brett's a cool dude.
Yeah, he was in L.A.
All right, let's see here. Mike G says, I have a biochem degree. One of the issues we studied that could be leading to low T is the massive excess estrogen and prostrogen via birth control women peeing out of their system. It does not break down.
Yep.
That's wild.
So if you're on city water, You're basically drinking a bunch of birth control.
That's all I drink. Is I drink straight from the tap. in New York
Yeah,
City.
I've been saying don't drink the tap water.
I
for
thought
like
the tap in
15
New York-
years now.
I thought the tap in New York was supposed to be one of the better ones, but I guess
Well,
not.
in terms of
That's what the government wants you to think.
in terms of contaminants and like illnesses, but
Yeah.
there's still stuff,
other
you know.
stuff, of course. Yeah.
The realist sociologist says T levels are down 50% since the 40s and down 1% per year since the 1980s. This is an ignored epidemic. T is a wellness hormone, not necessarily a masculinity hormone, but I think they do want to feminize us.
Agreed.
TK 1960 says, Tim, recommend you read The Empire Core by Christopher G. Nuttall. The chapter lead-ins are hauntingly accurate for the current condition of our country. Very interesting.
Regarding the super chat before, you think that there's this global establishment that's doing like the Great Reset and all that wants people more docile, less aggressive, so they want less testosterone in the systems?
Yeah, I don't think it's crazy to say that there are people in power who study how to maintain their power and expand it, and they look throughout history and they said, you know what, we need to feminize society, we need to make people docile, and they're easier to control.
It could be accidental. It could be deliberate. It doesn't matter. We shouldn't
fight
we
it
shouldn't
either way.
theorize
No,
it.
I think-
but
I
we
think
should understand it.
Feminize is absolutely the incorrect way to describe this. Absolutely
Yeah,
incorrect.
you're right. You're right.
It's more like infantilize.
Yeah, you're right.
I read this interesting thing about dog domestication. They talked about how proto dogs, the first dogs, were essentially
It's a great word phrase, by the way.
what proto dog?
Proto dogs.
That's the word.
Proto
Yeah.
dog.
So there were wolves, and then there was a new breed of proto dog. They were still wolves, but they were adapted and grew up with humans and were more accommodating. Eventually, though, we selected the dogs that were less likely, the wolves that were less likely to fight us and attack us, essentially creating a permanent child. So dogs, as I was reading, are very much like they never grew up. So you have people who are essentially now scared of words, unable to support themselves, and they're very much becoming very infantilized.
We're being bred into that.
Yeah, I don't know if bred is the right word. Like social conditioning. Like I said, we're shut down so we can't go interact with each other, but we can go online and be told these opinions that we're allowed to believe while everything else is removed. Only acceptable opinions are allowed in the machine, and no one is allowed to go out and talk to each other. Debt Collector says, I'm vegan and I don't take vitamins, and I'm 100% healthy. And in 2020, I felt amazing.
How long have you been vegan?
No, they can't respond.
Okay.
Gray's Fang says, keto carnivore, problem solved. That's true, man. You know what really bugs me is people don't know what keto is. And
Ketogenesis.
yeah, people are like, oh, I'm doing keto. And I'm like, couldn't help but notice that you're eating a large steak and chicken. Like, it's keto. I'm like, no, it isn't. Like, I think it's called gluconeogenesis. You eat a bunch of protein, it just turns into sugar. Keto is like drinking a glass of heavy whipping cream for breakfast.
Yeah.
And then eating an avocado with cheese for lunch. And yes, some protein and less carbs. But people, like, they say they're doing keto and they're doing Atkins. It's like, oh, I'm doing keto. And I'm like,
Keto's awesome. Your body starts swelling because it's digesting the fat. It's melting.
Swelling?
Yeah, you'll feel your body like swelling as it's doing it.
Well, I read this crazy thing about like mental cognition improved 25% and muscle endurance improves 25% because all of a sudden your body's got instant access to all this energy using ketones instead of glucose, sugar. But my understanding is that high fat diet, like ridiculously high fat, makes testosterone go crazy, and then dudes are just like, I'm gonna fight you. I drank heavy whipping cream, and they go nuts. Alan Ortega says, meat is very important to the human diet. I went full carnivore and my anxiety went away. And I'm healthier than ever before with no supplements. The main problem is seed oils and monocropping. Sugar is bad for all. Yes.
You know, when it comes to eating meat, I wonder about salt because a lot of meats are salted. So like you gotta be careful about your salt intake too.
I feel like meats were even more salted in the past when they didn't have, refrigerators and all that, and they were not as bad as what we're facing today. So I don't know if it could be that bad.
Yeah. Let's see. Alina Bushong says, on low T, a fascinating behavior study in rats in a utopian setting called Universe 25. Interesting. Zen Dong Stuff says, great show. Testosterone. I know evolutionary biologist B. Weinstein, Heather Hine have talked about this extensively on their Dark Horse podcast. A lot of good data from their research, as I recall. I'll have to reach out and see if they would like to come on the show. I know they might not want to travel. When they went on Bill Maher, they were socially distanced. Daniel Laster says, I just got diagnosed today with low T, and my condition started after working in corrections. It could be escalating destabilization in America. Daniel Maxwell says, how long have U.S. farmers been using genetically modified seeds to grow crops? that could have a major impact on the nutrient value in the food crops. One of those unintended consequences of genetic modification. Gavin Young says, how about the wide availability of adult content? If you don't have a physical need to go out and find a mate, your body has no need to supply the energy to maintain the structures that attract a potential mate. But testosterone is more than that. It's not just about the masculinity thing. It's literally about like making your body function. Like I think bone density too.
I'm shocked we didn't bring up porn though. I mean, porn is so destructive mentally. I mean, it's like I think equivalent to just using cocaine regularly almost or something like that. I forgot the drug equivalency.
Well, it has very damaging effects for young people.
Right.
There's also some people thinks it boosts up your T.
So it's
it's kind of like a
conflicting.
lose it or use it
That's
kind
a
of
good point, because
phase
if like
analogy.
4 and 6-year-olds are seeing that stuff, and now 10 years later and 15 years later, those are the people that are out there all twisted. Maybe it's something about seeing like just because there's like most porn is like violent. It's
Right.
like people like
Well, it's like porn escalation. You need you need to like up it even more.
But
to get your kicks.
there's like video of people having loving sex that you can watch and you call that porn. But I think a lot of people think that that's what sex is.
People
like
want to see
painful.
like a He-Man kind of dude, like holding a woman who's in like airplane, and he throws her, and then she does a triple backflip, and then falls off a cliff with a parachute, and then she lands in a pool full of like men and women. Like they want the craziest, most extreme. Like that's the escalation, right?
Yeah, it's like using drugs. You need to like the
Bigger high.
Yeah, you have to get a better high, and it's like that's what it is.
Wow.
So no one's
So,
watching the love scene. I don't think.
I do.
This is we got an
anomaly.
interesting one. Jeffrey Grunt says, I remember the end of a Captain Planet episode where Captain said, try keep your family to one kid. Try to keep your family to two. It's poorly phrased, but I think he's saying to keep your family to one kid. What? Do you guys remember that?
No.
No, I don't remember that.
Never
BD Blake says, if you live in Pennsylvania, the governor taxes people with few kids to pay for school taxes and people with more kids to be exempt. Incentive for kids.
They used to-
What country was it? Was it
childless tax.
No, they were like, we're going to give you money if you
Hungary.
Hungry.
And
Yeah,
Poland too. Poland gives
giving
you
money to
a
people.
stipend if you have more than one child.
I think in the Soviet Union too, they also had they would tax you if you were childless. So it was an incentive and also just punishment.
Ole, Ole Cab says, I've been depressed nearly all my life. I started taking vitamin D supplements for a month. I started taking vitamin supplements and vitamin D for a month or two, and within 2 weeks, I felt free from the chains of depression.
Yep, a lot of people are vitamin D deficient. Check your levels.
I gotta check
Get some
that out.
sun. The new IKB says, if you have made enough enemies that it's not possible for you to fly on a commercial flight, then you done messed up. No one is more hated than a hypocrite. Interesting. John Branson says, matter generates and is made of energy. It's only natural that the world will find a way to return matter to energy regardless of its state, and return that energy into matter. Natural life is a cycle. Oh. Let's see. 4CDN name change says, I get a kick out of how we repurpose this collected plastic to make crappy bracelets, which you can buy so you feel like you're doing something to help the planet, which people end up throwing out and back into the ocean they go. Yeah, that's a good point.
I
Yeah,
bought
man.
some of those bracelets.
Jesse Masagian says all politicians should have to live stream their entire life while in office. The corrupt will
Yeah.
bail out, and the cost will be easily covered after the corruption is uprooted. That way, we'll have people in office who only serve the people, stop the manipulation, and have transparency.
24/7 surveillance, even when they're in the potty.
All phone calls on public issues are publicly available.
That was almost like the Kardashians, though, and look with them. Like they had cameras on them all the time, and they loved it. I mean,
Public transparency. Let's do it.
could be worse.
Ethan Johansson says, next time you speculate on GMOs and farming practices on here, please have an actual farmer on to tell our side of the story and why we do what we do. Like MN Millennial Farmer, Zach Johnson, Brian's Brown Farming Videos, or How Farms Work, Ryan K. Interesting.
A farmer would be nice to change things up on here. I
Yeah.
think I would like that.
We've been
Let's do it.
really trying to get researchers from universities on near-death experiences and life after death.
Oh.
But it's hard to get non-pop cycle. Like if someone's doing research on something very trendy or popular, then it's very easy to get them and book them. If it's political, it's very easy.
More scientists in general, more people like Dr. Chris Martinson. I think
That
would
was
be
great. That was great.
So,
Well, we're trying. The problem is people in politics they want to have their message out there. So, you'll get these people who are just like absolutely desperate to get their message. Like the president of the New York Young Republicans Club will be like, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But if you know any good scientists, reach out to us. I think you have an email. You can reach out to me even. It doesn't matter.
I'll hook them up with you too.
We have a new general inquiry email. It's info@timcast.com.
I sent you some info. Jeremy Riss, he's the alien scientist on YouTube, and he wants to talk about the Senate disclosure that got slipped into the COVID bill.
Yeah.
He's been
the
studying
UFOs?
it. Yeah.
That's coming in June.
I think guys, we have a crazy bonus segment for after the
UFOs?
show. No, it's more than that. It's the Navy claiming to have reality engineering technology. Like, dude, what if everything we've been seeing over the past 4 years have been them screwing with reality
The Philadelphia
manipulation?
experiment
We're just in the
type of thing?
pod, like in the Matrix.
No. But they're saying they have tech that like engineers reality to some degree.
Wow.
What if?
Probably.
Remember,
Wasn't there that big conspiracy theory, the Philadelphia experiment with the boat in?
that was
World
like
War
a movie or a book.
That
or
wasn't
something.
real at all. Well, I mean,
No,
this
no.
sounds. I mean, this
But
sounds.
there's
That was real.
the Philadelphia experiment.
Yes, it was.
I don't think you're correct.
Okay.
It wasn't based on a movie.
What?
I mean, it was a conspiracy, but
What is it?
there was some. I mean, I don't even know where to begin with it.
I think it was a Navy experiment that they were running.
And
It wasn't a book or movie.
Yeah, exactly. It was an experiment, and like something happened with the boat, and like
It was weird. They thought it was nothing. People were like, "It's not." A
So
big
the
deal.
origin of the story is a book called "The Case for the UFO," about UFOs and the exotic means of propulsion they might use. And then he said he received 2 letters from Carlos Miguel Allende, Carl M. Allen, who claimed to have witnessed a secret World War II experiment called at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. In the experiment, he claimed the destroyer, the USS Eldridge, was rendered invisible. So I'm pretty sure it didn't happen.
Well, the U.S. government always does really wacky, crazy stuff, including, the story about the men who stare at goats. And I actually talked to some of those scientists involved, and they were talking about high-level quantum physics and
did a movie?
manifestation and spirituality. There was also a movie based on that, but one of the high-level kind of generals involved in that actually reached out to me. I actually spent time with him in Chile, and he blew my mind away.
We are going to have a bonus segment talking about all this stuff because this is crazy. They claim to engineer reality, so we'll get to it. Let's see where we're at. We got some super chats. We got some more super chats. Jandon Patterson says, Tim A, become a, I can't see what that emoji is. A bird? What is it? Oh, it says it's an eagle, gorilla, or an orangutan, not a sheep. It's time to play in the grass with all of these snakes and see how far we make it. Play the game, but smarter. Good luck, everyone, and stay sane. Exiles. Later, cast. Appreciate the support.
Thank you.
Ian K says, Tim, love your show. You and your team are a light in the darkness. Please talk about the Great Reset. We definitely did get into that quite a bit today.
I do all the time. I mean, how can you not?
I'm just eternally grateful to finally, all of these evil, planet-destroying, children-having white supremacists are now going to get stopped by the great, wonderful cabal.
Klaus Schwab.
Klaus Schwab.
that guy's straight out of a Bond movie. Like he just looks evil. He doesn't even try to hide it. It's just like he's central casting for evil, and he doesn't even care.
All right, we got too many super chats, you guys. This is just too many super chats. We really appreciate it. We want more. Thank you so much, but I can't read them all. Reoccupy Wall Street says, we are in awe of the elite response towards the GameStop rebellion. In our response, we made reoccupywallstreet.co. In it, we have some funny anti-establishment memes and merch. Check site for more. That's the funny thing. The main reason we hit up Gavin is because you were setting up Reoccupy Wall Street. And I was like, you mentioned there were a lot of leftists coming at you. I'm like, they finally convinced some Republicans to be like, maybe we should occupy Wall Street. And they're like, no, not you. Get out of here.
Yeah.
Like, what?
This is
It's
great.
not
We
real.
barely got into it. Are you like, how do you feel about the Federal Reserve?
Oh, I hate the Federal Reserve. I mean,
Now you guys are friends. You're best friends.
I was like I was a Ron Paul guy. I mean, I was like, I've read Rothbard, all that kind of stuff. So I'm all in with the creature from Jekyll Isle and all that. But what happened? I mean, that was more 2008, 2010 with the Fed creating these malincentives and all this horrible and excess credit on the markets. But now it's just it's kind of an elitist type of thing because it's like rules for thee but not for me. We can overshort, we can do all this ridiculous market manipulation, but the second the little guy has the tools to do it, shut it down. And we went there and we were saying that, and the leftists agree with us. Some of them would have just liked to shut down the markets completely. My view was this was a self-regulating aspect. The overshort balanced out the overshort. So the short squeeze balanced out the overshort, excuse me.
All right, we got this one from Emmanuel NG. He says, I love you, Tim, Ian, Lids, and Luke. Gavin, it's too soon for me to get attached. Low ppm drug water filtration technology exists, but you won't get that mass produced without someone making money.
That would be graphene.
Filtering water better won't give you votes either.
That is what we use graphene for, is water filtration.
Dre TV says you will see a return of Plato's philosopher kings. They arise in an empire's time of crisis. Like Donald Trump, the true philosopher king. I'm kidding. No, but maybe in 2024 we'll actually get a.
I hope so, man.
Tucker
Well, yeah, I
Carlson.
don't. Maybe Tucker Carlson.
Tim
I'm
Pool.
not. I wouldn't actually want a philosopher king, but a philosopher president for 4 years,
That'd be
maybe
so
8, would be pretty good.
I'm the Secretary of State.
I'm into it.
Mish Kola says, I'm an agronomist. The decline in nutrition in our crops coincides with the increase in fertilizer use. Interesting. Wow. Matt Penn says, Gavin looks like a young Richard Kind.
Okay.
All right. Trucker Hat says, also check out Marine Corps. Looks at building 3 new Pacific regiments to counter China Marine Corps times. Interesting. Clyde B6 says, may I suggest Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six? It's an older book, but fun to read. Oh, wow.
I did play the video game. It was really good.
Catherine Lowe says, Tim, The Last Refuge tweeted your last AOC segment about 40 minutes ago. The truth will come out. P.S. Luke's got a sweater 1984, but we are change came off. Oof. What's The Last Refuge? Is that a podcast?
I don't know.
You want to look at it? I think it's a podcast, huh? Giga Chad says, men, get your testosterone levels checked. Do your research and get treated if you need it.
Mm-hmm.
TRT is a life changer.
Well, that's why I've been telling everyone, get your blood levels tested.
We just take the Alex Jones supplements and be fine.
Oh, yeah. Check
There's
us
one
out.
right here.
Jane Markham says, try to get Colian Noir on and talk about 2A. Would be a great fun convo. Yeah, I've talked to Colian. We definitely want him to have him on the show. He seems awesome.
I thought it was Colin this whole time. It's Colian?
Yeah. Colian.
Collian?
I don't know. He'll correct us when he comes on the show.
Good, okay.
When he inevitably comes in the show in the next week or two.
Thank you, sir.
DS says, hi, Tim. I had a cool out-of-body death experience when I was stabbed in Baltimore in a robbery attempt. I died for 45 minutes. I left my body. Whoa.
Tell us
that's
more.
Crazy.
Nope.
All right, let's just read a couple more here. Barry Kitchen says, our bodies are resilient things. We adapt to situations. Times are soft, so we don't need high testosterone. Low T equals depression and prostate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that apoptosis phenomena where certain cells, when they're unneeded, will just destroy themselves in the body. That's like, I feel like society's...
Getting rid of the T cells.
Yeah, it's crazy.
All right, Vosht says, the Philly experiment. The ship was said to have disappeared, but it just stopped showing up on radar. Very interesting. My friends, if you haven't already, smash the like button and go to timcast.com, become a member, because we're going to do a crazy, weird UFO technology segment for members only coming up soon. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Minds. For the time being, I'll always be on Minds, though. They're not going to ban me because they're legit, at Timcast. And you can check out my other YouTube channels, youtube.com/Timcast, youtube.com/TimcastNews. We do this show Monday through Friday live at 8 p.m. We'll be back tomorrow, of course. If you're listening on the podcast, leave a good review. Otherwise, subscribe, like button, notification bell, and share the show with your friends. And Gavin, you have anything you want to mention?
No.
Social media?
Thank you guys for having me on. Follow me at GavinWax, and I'm looking forward to doing more with you guys.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming.
Well, thank you.
And if you want to support me and my independent efforts, you can by just simply purchasing a t-shirt and then virtue signaling to everyone around you by going to thebestpoliticalshirts.com. And I also run an independent media channel called We Are Change on the YouTube channel. We Are Change, that is really ridiculous and really facetious that you could still somehow watch, and it's still on YouTube.
Good stuff. And I'm Ian Cross, and you can follow me also on Minds, and I know it's awesome because I helped create it. YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, at Ian Crossland. You can also follow me on Twitch and follow my daily streams, though I didn't do any yesterday or the day before. Gavin, this was really awesome. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for coming
I want
out.
to go
That's
deeper
pleasure.
on the Federal Reserve one day.
Oh, let's do it. I love it.
And I am Sour Patch Lids. You can follow me on Twitter at Sour Patch Lids. I'm also on Minds at Sour Patch Lids, and I am on Gab and Instagram at Real Sour Patch Lids.
The U.S. Navy has patents on tech it says will engineer the fabric of reality.
It's changing
You did a
as we speak.
Radowski.
I did a Radowski. They say it will engineer the fabric of reality. If you want to hear more about it, go to timcast.com, become a member, and we will see you all there.